Hey everybody, how's it going? Your best buddy Basil here. Whoops, I just spaced out quite a bit. We're about to start the show, which means I need to send the text message. I am feverishly scrolling through all of my tabs to find the text message tab. There it is. Okay, here we go. Send. Farewell, text message. Find your way into the phones of Canarians around the world. Remember, you can get on the text message alert system if you'd like. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. That's a great way to do it. Man, lots of stuff going on today. Oh man, starting to get a little shaky around the world. So, hope everybody is doing well. Just remember that life, the life that is near you, is more important than the life across the sea. So keep that in mind as we continue through this show. I'm just going to wait for a signal from Gons to see that we're ready. Sounds like we're ready. All right, folks, buckle up. Let's get this show started.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gons as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Crime News Talk. Today is March 15th, 2023. Let's see. We are live to tape on episode 602. And today, Land of Milk and Money. And signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle, your best buddy Basil.
And my name is Gons of the no longer operational Face Like the Sun YouTube channel, director of the Age of Deceit films, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, aka the Cabana Boy, live to tape from California, here to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. And today's immersion phenomena, pre-game show. Ooh. It's wartime, wars and rumors of wars. Things are getting hot, but we're in the pregame, baby.
No, you scaremonger. Pregame
I'm
forever.
Not a scaremonger. Come on.
Forever.
Come on.
We're never going to die. Yeah. It's big things happening. I mean, big things are always happening. On one hand, I am relieved that I didn't have any money in Swiss bank accounts. On the other hand, you know, you hate to see a drone take a hit like that, Gons. But we're going to get into more of that during the show. Let's start by opening up that big old clan of Cliss Damer.
Oh, wow.
It's time for a disclaimer.
Now listen up.
YouTube. That's right. And just for all the content moderators and censorship managers out there, be they robots or humans, everything you hear on this show comes directly from the mainstream corporate news media. We do not claim to be experts on healthcare, geopolitics, military strategy, corporate law, or the moral and ethical implications of any of these topics, nor do we implicitly or explicitly support or subscribe to any sources or narratives containing misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation, as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. We're good boys. All right, YouTube, we're good boys. That's right. Let me give you a rundown.
Oh, look, here's Basil.
Let me bring you up to speed.
Well, starting off, it comes as no surprise that some rich white liberals may have been involved in lobbying the government for the recent SVB bailout. We'll be naming names at the top of the show. Then, of course, when one thing is discussed in the FLIPPY update, when a postulation is made, it only takes about a week for the thing to happen. So we'll be talking about Google's embodied language model, which answers all of our questions and solves all of our life problems. Then we'll be heading on over to the World War III arena, checking in on Ukraine, Russia, a poor little drone that took a splash yesterday, and what's going on with the Saudis. That's right. The draft has begun. The teams are being picked, and it's shaping up to be a good game, Gons. And just for fun, we're going to be checking in on the Space Pope Reptilian. What's he think about the whole thing? And does he think that he can last the whole game? We'll find out. Second half of the show, we got some COVID news. U.S. government agencies may have been double billing for projects, so that's fine. Well, double billing for projects at the Wuhan Institute in China. More news coming out from the investigations. And then back in the news is our good buddy Ray Kurzweil moving his predictions for human immortality sooner than you'd think, folks. And then at the end of the show, somebody's saying the quiet part out loud, confirming our mega theory about Antarctica. But first, Gons, our lead stories.
It's Newsom science, baby! Ha!
Yes. Things are crashing, but you know what? The Fed is coming to the rescue. Don't worry. Microsoft, or MSN.com, mirroring a story from Business Insider. The headline here: California Governor Gavin Newsom failed to publicly disclose his SVB, that's the Silicon Valley Bank, ties with lobbying for a bailout.
Oopsies.
Yeah.
I like the language of that. He failed to disclose. He made, makes it like a bad performance. He made a mistake.
Yeah, mishandled the ball.
He did a bad job at something he wished he would have done a good job at. Mm-hmm. And that is implicating himself in one of the most major financial emergencies in 15 years. Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah,
you're so close, Gavin. So close.
California Governor Newsom lobbied the White House and the Department of the Treasury about the pending bailout of Silicon Valley Bank, even as 3 of his private wineries had apparently been among the bank's clients, according to a Tuesday report by Ken Klippenstein of The Intercept. And, the Insider made a link to svb.com, which I'm surprised it's still up. Some, backlinks there. But basically, it's an extension, Silicon Valley Bank Wine Division. And apparently, this document lists the wineries owned by Gavin Newsom. So, straight up naming names. According to Klippenstein's reporting, Newsom's personal relationship with SVB went beyond the wineries. One anonymous former employee who handled Newsom's finances told Klippenstein that Newsom, quote, maintained personal accounts at SVB for years. It is unclear whether those personal accounts were still active at the time of the bank's collapse last week. If they were, Newsom could have stood to benefit directly from the Biden administration's rescue package, which will reimburse SVB account holders even if their balances surpass the $250,000 limit insured by the FDIC.
Nice.
It's not a bailout, guys. It's not a bailout. Don't worry. Not a bailout. Just, giving money to people that lost it,
Yeah, so even in Biden's magnificent flubless sort of announcement about how they're not bailing out the executives, they're not bailing out the shareholders. We are just here to rescue hardworking middle-class tech executives and big tech companies from a mistake that was not their own. Kind of failed to mention that, some pretty influential politicians were stood to lose some of their personal finances. We cannot allow this, Gons. We must protect the people.
It made sense. Then I pointed this out last episode that Newsom went down with COVID. The week the bank went down, right? That's really, it was very convenient for him.
The timing was incredible.
So on Saturday, Newsom's office issued a statement that Newsom had, quote, been in touch with the highest levels of leadership at the White House and Treasury, end quote. He said the goal was to, quote unquote, stabilize the entire innovation ecosystem that has served as a tentpole for our economy. Gavin Newsom, he's fighting for you, folks, as Americans. He's fighting for you, Americans listening out there. The following day, go ahead.
No, continue.
The following day, Newsom praised the administration for acting, quote, swiftly and decisively. Again, there was no mention of his own ties to the bank. Instead, Newsom expressed gratitude on behalf of, quote, small businesses that can now make payroll, workers who will get their paychecks, and nonprofits that can keep their doors open tomorrow.
Yes, the nonprofit. I saw that. People loved talking about the soup kitchen.
Yes,
that was banking with SVB.
Yeah.
Again, so happy that soup kitchen can buy soup. It just happened to be a secondary benefit that Gavin Newsom, governor of California, probably the single most influential person in getting these bailouts,
it gets better.
Also happened to have a huge financial stake in the matter.
Yeah. Right. So about the nonprofits, Newsom's wife, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, happens to be one of the co-founders of one of the nonprofits, California Partners Project. SVB reportedly donated $100,000 to that charity. The former bank's president is listed as one of the charity's board members. The son of the attorney for the Getty Oil dynasty, Newsom's fundraising prowess and deep ties to California Democrats have put him in the first tier of the party's future presidential contenders, but as Newsom's national profile has grown, Has it grown? I don't know. His privileged background has emerged as a potential Achilles heel with voters during the pandemic. I hope he's just one of these guys that thinks he's going to make it, but then fizzles out, doesn't quite make it to the stratosphere. His privileged background has emerged as an Achilles heel. During the pandemic, he was photographed dining maskless with a large group of lobbyists at the French Laundry. Yeah, we remember that whole thing.
It's my favorite part of the pandemic.
Yeah, he hasn't discussed the FBB situation personally. Here's the part too. As an elected official, Newsom is prohibited by state law from influencing a governmental decision, quote, in which the official knows or has reason to believe the official has a financial interest. So he's maybe breaking some rules too. Nathan Click, a spokesperson for Newsom, told Insider that Newsom's, quote, business and financial holdings are held and managed by a blind trust.
Sure.
And have been since he was elected governor in 2018. Click did not respond to detailed questions about the Intercept's reporting on Newsom's SVB ties. Spokespeople for the White House and California Partners Project did not immediately return Insider requests for comment. So at least the Business Insider, this is no good for Gavin Newsom. If Business Insider is writing not so nice things about Gavin, maybe he extended or leaned too heavily into his privilege, and it's sort of backfiring on him. It's not going to work with the American people.
Yeah, it's not looking great. Not looking great for old Gavin. That rich white guy just can't catch a break, can he?
Well, his ties to China is probably part to do with this as well. That there's some sort of
that's the major. That's
the preservation of American whatever
just
Constitutional Republic, And then Newsom
Funny
sort of
SJW joke there.
Yeah. And then Newsom trying to erode all that and making deals with China, and given the way things are going with World War III looming, can't have the China made governors around, I guess. So that's just a thing.
There was a long breakdown from the Washington Post about the 72 hours following the crash and the heroic efforts by politicians and representatives from around the country to save the working man.
Yes.
And I just want to read one paragraph from that. That was sort of Gavin Newsom's hero pose here. It says, sounding alarms were the likes of Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn and a partner at Greylock, a major venture capital firm, a prolific donor to Democrats, including Biden. He took his concerns to Democratic lawmakers and administration officials. Ron Conway, another of the area's leading investors with original stakes in Airbnb, Facebook, and Google, worked with Pelosi and Governor Gavin Newsom to put pressure on the White House, Treasury Department, and elected officials. So Gavin teamed up with billionaires to save his own money. Yeah, it's awesome.
This could be, man, I can't imagine this being good for Gavin just moving forward. Not just the presidency, but...
Oh, he'll be fine.
You think he's going to be protected through all this?
He'll be fine.
Get him out of here, man.
He's invincible. Gavin Newsom is invincible. I'm sorry. I don't want to burst your bubble, Guns, but I have to strike down this magical thinking that you have that somehow Gavin Newsom will ever be held to account.
Can't one of the Kevins do something? Kevin, the vaccine Kevin. I am vaccine Kevin. Do something. This guy's running amok.
Women rule.
That guy. You're going to let that guy take over? It's a very sad situation.
Well, there's more news in the ongoing sort of, what's the word, slow demolition, the controlled demolition of the Western financial sector. And I do say, controlled demolition because there's some pretty explicit clues as to that later on in the show regarding Credit Suisse, the Swiss banking company that is currently on shaky ground as of yesterday, I believe. But that fits into some bigger picture stuff. We'll be talking about that in our next block. But first, Gons, I think if you're ready, we should keep on moving and remind everybody just what day it is.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday.
Hey guys, know what day it is? It's Wednesday. It's time for the Canary Cry News Talk.
Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Yes, it's Wednesday, and we keep on trucking. This week is so exciting, Gons. It feels like it's going 100 miles an hour. You got anything exciting happening in the blink of an eye since last episode?
Not much since last episode. I'm discovering that I have a strange interest in office design or something. I don't know. I'm looking at my future office in the new home in a couple months here. And for the first time, maybe it's because I'm post 40 now, but I was thinking about like having a plant in the office. This is a thought that I'd never had before. I just must be getting old, So anyway.
Your nesting instincts,
maybe,
your nesting instincts are kicking in. You're thinking about how you can build a comfortable and safe nest for your babies. Not your human babies, but for your plant babies or your podcast babies.
Well, the plant
are you
would
getting
be
excited about the move?
Not
getting
really.
Excited about the move?
No, not too excited. But the plant could be part of the podcast, because it would be in the office, so it would be in the presence.
Yeah, no, the plant will be the new mascot for the podcast.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right. What about you? You got anything happening over there?
No, I don't think I have anything exciting. I am filling my house with more. I told you about the baby bunny. Got a baby bunny in the house now.
Yeah.
Carrying this little guy around. You know what? That is the sad part. So the other day in the storm, there were 2 baby bunnies that had gotten kicked out of the nest for whatever reason. One of them had an eye infection, and sadly, that little guy did not make it. That's 2 bunnies. I've had to bury 2 bunnies now.
Do you think they fell out, or do you think they were ousted? Like, hey, there's only so much space here. We live in a rabbit-eat-rabbit world.
I think they were ousted because the littler baby was very sick, had something, and that's kind of what bunnies do.
Cruel world, man.
Yeah. If a baby gets sick, they kind of get kicked out of the nest so they don't infect the other babies. So sadly, that little guy did not make it.
Hey, that's a good argument for evolutionists who are authoritarians. What? You know, it's like, hey, you're sick. You're not good enough for society. Let's just
evolutionists are fascists. Guns. We know this.
Okay.
All right, and with that bit of wisdom, we will go ahead and thank our executive producer for the day.
Executive producers.
That's right, folks. We're on the value for value model, which means we take no corporate money whatsoever. We are entirely funded by listeners who get value out of the show. If this show brings any value to your life, consider putting value back in one way or another. You can do so with your time, your talent, or your treasure. And the executive producers are those who come in. They are generous in reflecting the value that the show brings to their life and putting it back in the form of fiat currency. Man, oh man, Gons, that is one thing with the value for value model. We are not insulated from market panic. Banks start crashing. It's not like we have a 401k to worry about, but we are, sort of subject to the financial system, and which is understandable. Look, we're here to suffer just along with everybody else. But we do have an executive producer for the day, which makes us very grateful. You ready?
Yep.
Today, it is executive producer Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes.
Hey, Dame Lynn. Good to see you. Thank you for your executive producership.
Dame Lynn always comes in and saves us in the most important times. We're very grateful. Thank you. Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes, comes in with 103.33.
Illuminatus!
Yeah, thank you very much. And a little note, it says, stay the course, Maranatha. Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes. Maranatha. Thank you, Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes. And other than that, that is it. I mean, the good news is the show will be probably significantly shorter today. We'll probably get out while there's still daylight, Gons.
Well, thanks to the daylight change savings. What am I saying? The time change from last week. Everyone was complaining about.
The time change, yes, and the expediency with which we can make it through producers. With that, I will take this extra time.
Before we move forward, thank you, Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes, executive producer.
Where'd you find this? Women rule!
Newsom thinks you rule, Dame Lynn.
Yeah, well, she does. He's not wrong about that.
He's not. You were going to say something. Sorry. Oh, you cut out. Or did you stop talking? I think you stopped talking. Did I lose you? Uh-oh. Completely lost you, Basil.
Muted. I've got muted somehow. I don't know
muted
how.
Yourself. Okay, interesting.
There we go. Sorry about that. Live to tape, folks. This is sort of the human mistakes that you won't get with AI podcasting. So, what was I going to say? I was going to take this extra time to mention a couple things. Let's do meetups up here at the top.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Not ready for that one.
Oh, I know. It's okay. You. I'm making calls here, trying to figure out ways to balance the announcements a little bit better.
Canary Cry Meetup.
Yeah, I wanted to plug canarycrymeetups.com because maybe a lot of people don't make it to the end of the show. But meetups are a very important part of life. That might sound silly, but it's true. Finding other human beings just like yourself who listen to the same podcast, that's a really good indicator that you can be friends, or maybe you should be friends. We had a couple meetups over the weekend. Unfortunately, which one was it? I think it was the Missouri meetup got canceled due to weather. Very sad, but we understand. The next meetup is April 29th in St. Augustine, Florida. So if you're on the East Coast there, you want to go get some sun, head down to Florida, meet up with some Canarians in St. Augustine on April 29th, 11 a.m. at the Plaza de Constitucion, at the Statue of the Lion there. And you can find all the details for that over at canarycrimemeetups.com. Do we have any new meetups to announce? I don't think so.
Don't think so. I am editing the page right now as you talk.
As we speak, doing some webmastering. Yeah. We do have a new flyer for the Houston meetup. We'll talk about that in the art section. But there you go. So if you are out there in the world and you think it would be cool to meet some people who are like you, who have some crazy ideas and listen to some crazy podcasts, put on a meetup in your area. It's almost guaranteed that there are Canarians near you. And all you got to do is put on a meetup to lure them out of their cages. So go to canarycrimemeetups.com to check that out, or send us an email at canarycryradio@gmail.com to tell us when and where you want to put on a meetup. And we'll see you at the meetup.
Ready for Flippy?
Ready for Flippy, bro.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
It's time for the Flippy update, folks. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. Today, we'd like to talk about Flippy. Wait, did I just say that? No. Yeah, because robots are taking over the world, and there's nothing we can do about it. You know the thing. Today's Flippy update is coming from ArsTechnica.com, and the headline is Google's Palm-E is a generalist robot brain that takes commands. So, big news, before I get into this, big news, I think it was yesterday, ChatGPT 4 just dropped, and it has been blowing people's minds. Of course, ChatGPT we've been talking about for a while. That was the 3.5 version, and version 4 hit the streets. And it's pretty incredible, Gonzo. Have you seen some of this, some of the examples of what people are doing with it? I put us on the wait list, so don't worry.
Okay. Oh, good. I did see, I retweeted something about how they passed a bunch of tests, like exams and difficult exams that people study for lifetimes or whatever.
Yes,
at the
I
bar.
got that.
You have the list in front of you? I'm trying to pull it.
Yeah, I got it right here. Okay. So ChatGPT 4, the next version of ChatGPT, which has been enhanced in a lot of different ways, but partially enhanced because it has all the human interaction from ChatGPT 3.5. And this one, ChatGPT 4, passed the bar exam with a 90%, passed the LSAT with an 88%, passed the GRE at an 80% with the quantitative test, and 99% with the verbal test. Every AP test, it's just incredible.
Version 4, where were you when I was in high school?
I know. It's really making the idea of human education into
the wasted hours studying.
Now, what's more impressive is the different functionalities. Right. One example going around is this guy, the main functionality being that it can process images, not just requests. Like asking a question.
Look at a picture and answer questions about the picture.
It can look at a picture and do a whole lot with that picture. For example, let's see, this tweet came from Rowan Chung, and it has a video here of someone drew by hand a website on a piece of paper and then input it into GPT-4, and GPT-4 took that picture and converted it into a usable website, a functional, usable website, which is pretty impressive considering what it's doing is it's coding there. There's several instances of people putting in commands to create video games, and it just codes the video game, and you can just play it right there on the bot. We've got people making Pong, making Snake, all through just giving commands to GPT-4. So it's all very impressive, all very scary. It's this, I'm just surprised at the wave of how quickly the world went from Chat GPT-3, which blew everybody's minds, and here we are a month or so after it became a worldwide phenomenon, and we're already at 4, and the possibilities are really freaky. You remember Do Not Pay, that the AI lawyer guy?
Yep.
Yeah. The guy who was making the AI lawyer and got threatened by the Lawyers Association of America that they're going to, almost put him in jail. So he pulled back. Well, he is using ChatGPT 4 and has created one-click lawsuits for robocalls. So if you get a robocall, you click one button and it formulates the entire lawsuit that you can apparently get $1,500 every time they do that. Lots of very impressive things. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more in the future, but it's big news. Just came out yesterday, I believe. But part of why I'm bringing this up is because you may have remembered just a few episodes ago, I was talking about how the real scary part is not that this language model can live in the cloud or whatever. It's giving a body to this language model. There's been lots of robots, and every robot has, an operating software, and that's been problematic, and is really part of the fun part about watching these robots do stupid stuff, is because the software is not very smart. But I lamented the fact that the scary part is when they put one of these advanced language models into a body, that it will change everything. And as usual, guns, here we go. Ars Technica. Google's Palm E is a generalist robot brain that takes commands. On Monday, a group of AI researchers from Google and the Technical University of Berlin unveiled Palm E, a multimodal embodied visual language model, VLM, with 562 billion parameters that integrates vision and language for robotic control. They claim it's the largest VLM ever developed, and that it can perform a variety of tasks without the need for retraining. According to Google, when given a high-level command, such as bring me the rice chips from the drawer, Palm E can generate a plan of action for a mobile robot platform with an arm. Oh no. Developed by Google Robotics, and execute the actions by itself. Palm E does this by analyzing data from the robot's camera without needing a pre-processed scene representation. So this is last Flippy update. We talked about how Amazon created a game to try to virtually train robots using human help. And we've talked about the training of robots and how they, have to replay simulations over and over and over so the robot can learn. Well, this kind of gets rid of the need for that. There is no learning period. Much like ChatGPT, you can ask it a completely novel question, or in this case, a completely novel command, and it's able to it doesn't have to refer back to what it's learned. It can learn immediately and process as it goes around in the world real time, instead of having to pre-process it with the training. This eliminates the need for a human to pre-process or annotate the data and allows for more autonomous robotic control. It's also resilient and can react to its environment. For example, the Palm E model can guide a robot to get a chip bag from a kitchen. With Palm E integrated into the control loop, it becomes resistant to interruptions that might occur during the task. In a video example, a researcher grabs the chips from the robot and moves them, but the robot locates the chips and grabs them again. Finally, Gons, we have found a good use case for these robots. We don't need them taking our jobs. We don't need them flirting with our spouses. We just need a robot to go get the chips.
So by the way,
Google has done it.
The video that I'm showing in the background as you read this is the robot arm. It looks like a little tower robot with the mechanical robot arm sticking out with the little clamps. And, it goes up to the counter. There's a drawer. He pulls out the drawer. He grabs the chips. He puts it on the counter. And there's a guy with, those trash picker-upper clips. I don't know what, not clips. Those little clamp thingies on a stick to like pick up trash.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called. What are they called?
I don't know. Trash picker-upper.
So there's a guy off to the side using one of those and putting the bag of chips back in the drawer.
Yeah.
And it's labeled adversarial disturbance. and then of course the robot arm goes in there and picks it back out again. Very persistent. No complaining. It should teach us to be more stoic, no?
The patience, yes.
Yeah.
We've talked about robots and how they're more spiritual than us, at least in an Eastern philosophical sense. And the patience this robot is showing is truly next level enlightened robot. At the adversarial. What did they call it?
Adversarial disturbance. And by the way, when the thing picks up the bag of chips, I'm pretty sure it's crushing the chips. So there's still some ways to go. You're going to have some unhappy people.
Adversarial disturbance. This guy better watch out. The robots are labeling him as an adversarial disturbance.
Exactly.
That is the label we are trying to avoid, people. Palmy is a next token predictor, and it's called Palmy because it's based on Google's existing large language model called Palm. Surprise. Which is similar to the technology behind ChatGPT.
I like Google has made the beast on the right hand, the right palm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got him. Google has made Palm embodied by adding sensory information and robotic control. It is literally the exact same language that I used the other day. It is the embodiment of these large language models. That is sort of the secret to the problem solving of letting the robots live a life of their own, and we can give them, rights and love and perhaps even take them on as our own children. It's just a day away, Gons.
Mm-hmm. I found the retweet of the ChatGPT 4 that I made, and nobody liked my thing. I said, it's definitely smart, but is it ever hungry for meat? Nobody liked. I got 2 likes and 600 views on the thing.
Well, Gons, if you were an AI that was, learning from his experience, you would take this and put it in the column of not very funny. And then next time, when you are tempted to slander our new robotic overlords on Twitter, then we can have you quickly labeled.
How is asking it if it's hungry?
Action.
How is asking it if it's hungry for meat? Any kind of negativity against the robots?
Mm-hmm. Because robots are vegetarian. We all know this, Gons. But this is the exciting part. We've got the embodied large language models, and they're coming for you. So with the advent of these things, how quickly they're happening, this is quicker. I think in the Red Book, I must have had some prediction for this year. And the fact that we're only 3 months in, and we not only have ChatGPT 4, but also an embodied large language model ready to march down the streets. The end is nigh, Gons. That's sort of the summation of the whole thing.
Oh, good. I'm glad that it's a point that we make a lot, don't we? It seems to be.
Yeah. They end the article here. It says multimodal. Multimodal is a buzzword we'll be hearing more and more as companies reach for the artificial general intelligence that will ostensibly be able.
Oh, you cut out.
Put that away. We're going to keep an eye out for multimodal showing up soon. And there you go, Gons. That is your Flippy update for the day.
And you shall hear wars and rumors of wars.
All right. Well, this is concerning Ukraine here.
Fight for Ukraine. New world order.
World War III. World War III. Biden was right.
Armageddon's on the way.
For the U.S. This is Politico.com. This is published on the 12th of March, so this past Sunday. Little fissures. The U.S. Ukraine war unity is slowly cracking apart. Interesting. Politico talking about the U.S. Ukraine starting to have some issues. I'll read a little bit here, and it's the beginning of a rabbit trail or a list of things that will go down here.
I think it is the beginning of a in-depth deconstruction and analysis of the start of World War III.
The United States and Ukraine have largely been in lockstep since President Joe Biden, Biden's administration pledged support for, quote, as long as it takes in resisting Moscow's relentless invasion. But more than a year into the war, there are growing differences behind the scenes between Washington and Kyiv on war aims, and potential flashpoints loom on how and when the conflict will end. Quote, the administration doesn't have a clear policy objective and a clear goal. It is to drag this thing out, which is precisely what Vladimir Putin wants, said Representative Michael McCall, Republican from Texas, chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Quote, is it to just give them enough to survive and not win? I don't see a policy for victory right now. And if we don't have that, then what are we doing? End quote. Publicly, there has been little separation between Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, an alliance on full display last month when the American president made his covert dramatic visit to Kyiv. But based on conversations with 10 officials, lawmakers, and experts, new points of tension are emerging. The sabotage of natural gas pipeline on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean, the brutal draining defense of a strategically unimportant Ukrainian city, and a plan to fight for a region where Russian forces have been entrenched for nearly a decade. Notice how they don't really mention the responsible parties necessarily. They list these items as the point of contention with the split. But of course, everybody knows, who was involved in all that stuff. Senior administration officials maintain that unity between Washington and Kyiv is tight, but the fractures have been apparent or have appeared are making it harder to credibly claim there's little daylight between the U.S. and Ukraine as sunbeams streak through the cracks. Then it goes into the whole thing about Russia's siege on Bakhmut. Ukraine has dug in, refusing to abandon the ruined city even at tremendous costs. They quote Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin here. I certainly don't want to discount the tremendous work that the Ukrainians as soldiers and leaders have put into defending Bakhmut, but I think it's more of a symbolic value than it is a strategic and operational value. Wow. Kyiv for now has ignored Washington's input. Let's see. The new intelligence first reported by the New York Times was short on details, but appeared, this is talking about the pro-Ukrainian group that took down Nord Stream, that narrative that we covered from the New York Times about a week ago.
Right. The fake cover story.
The fake cover story. So they bring that up a little bit. Let me skip down. I think that's pretty much the main thing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They go into some, they quote some more Republicans. They quote Jason Crow, who's a Democrat.
Yeah, it's starting to, the main, there was a couple more things here. Let me see if I can grab it. Let's see. Though Biden has pledged steadfast support and the coffers remain open for now, the U.S. has been clear with Kyiv that it cannot fund Ukraine indefinitely at this level. Right. Though backing Ukraine has largely been a bipartisan effort, a small but growing number of Republicans have begun to voice skepticism about the use of American treasure to support Kyiv without an end in sight to a distant war. Oh, nuts. Yeah, okay. So
yeah, there's some friction with Kevin McCarthy in there too. That would, we don't have to.
Yeah, it's just sort of noting the unwavering support is starting to waver from the U.S.
Well, the part that's interesting to me is that this reminded me of the kind of relationship that is common amongst parents and college age kids, or like early. I have one. I have a stepdaughter that's in that range right now, so I kind of get the same sort of feeling where Zelensky, the U.S. is helping Ukraine. Weapons, money. It's like, here you go. I know you're in a situation. I'm going to help you out. But then Zelensky is relentless. He's like, no, I'm gonna keep doing this, and now the parent, the U.S., is kind of okay, well, we can't support you like this forever. We're gonna have to, it's sort of a weird parent-child relationship, and Zelensky's not listening. No, I'm gonna keep fighting. It's like, no, well, you're losing. The town is destroyed. Like, no, keep sending us money, keep sending us weapons. So it's kind of an interesting play here, and it would make sense that the U.S. wants to maybe settle this sooner rather than later, because there are other things happening that require attention.
We've been seeing it wind down. The interesting part of this article, I thought, was they mentioned how the Washington is trying to stay out of a decision-making role,
right?
Insisting multiple times now that the U.S. is not in control of the war. They're not telling
they have
Ukraine
an
what to do.
Obligation.
As Kyiv for now has ignored Washington's input. So, sending all the resources and the weapons and the everything with, the blank check, but not having a say in what happens necessarily, or at least that's what Politico, the front facing political analysis is trying to give the impression. Now, this is important because we are at a time in the war where up until about now, it's been unquestioned from top to bottom, what we will do. And we will, excuse me, continue to help Ukraine. They'll do the fighting, and we'll do it until there's victory. Well, how do we know there's victory? Well, I don't know. Russia stops being mean to us. Okay, well, we'll see how long that takes. Now, let me talk about Russia for a second.
Russia.
NBCnews.com. This came out a couple of days ago, actually. I had it on the list for last episode, and then we just didn't end up deciding that that's what we wanted to do. But the headline, and I'm glad I waited because it fits into sort of a longer, broader narrative that we get to point out today. NBCnews.com, Putin thinks he can win in Ukraine because it matters more to him than to the U.S., says CIA chief. Russian President Vladimir Putin is betting that Russian forces can prevail in Ukraine through a grinding war of attrition and believes, quote, Ukraine matters more to him than us, CIA Director William Burns told lawmakers on Thursday. And it's this grinding war of attrition that's sort of the key factor here. A war of attrition is there's no strategic victory. There's no victory if you blow up this one building or you kill this one guy, or, there's no win directives or whatever. A war of attrition is just you fight forever until one country runs out of people or runs out of resources. And we really haven't had, the world hasn't really seen a war of attrition since World War I, because there was no sort of victory conditions. There was none of that. World War II, we had victory condition of killing Hitler, because once you kill Hitler, then the whole thing stops, basically. But as far as war of attrition, we have not seen one for quite some time.
Well, can't we just kill Putin then? We kill Putin, it ends. What is this war of attrition nonsense?
Well, okay. So that's what CIA Director William Burns is talking about. So it really does come down to, is Ukraine worth what extent is the Ukraine worth to the U.S.? Now, of course, if you're paying attention, you know that between biolabs and gas companies and corruption in the U.S. Congress, there were some very specific reasons that that a war in Ukraine, destruction in Ukraine, was helpful,
beneficial
to some people who had the ability to either not start a war or do start a war. But we're a year in, and pretty much everybody's financial interests or legal interests in destruction in Ukraine have pretty much been accomplished. Of course, the aggravation of Putin by expansion of NATO was a great excuse to have some chaos in the country that helped wipe the slate of, well, you get the point. But now we're at a point where, okay, when does it end? The U.S. has problems going on in Taiwan. We're gearing up with China. We've got huge financial problems at home. We've got all sorts of problems at home. Writing a blank check to Ukraine is starting to make less and less sense, especially if we don't exactly know what we're getting out of it. Of course, you've got the ideological justification of, I don't know, democracy. We're doing it for democracy. But we know that that's, looks good on a headline, but isn't necessarily at the top of mind for the leaders of our country. So you have this situation where Putin knows that the U.S. has a limit, just doesn't know what that limit is. Mm-hmm. And as we get closer and closer to, a real hot war, a World War III style situation where you have Russia and China on one side, you've got the U.S. and NATO on the other side. What's that thin red line? Well, Biden himself said that thin red line is American boots on the ground or actual military actions on Americans or by Americans. Right. And it seems in classic Putin fashion, there's a little bit of testing the limits that we're seeing here. Putin has a history of flying bombers a little too close to the California coast, right. Flying planes in places he shouldn't fly planes. And this has sort of mainly been he's just testing his boundaries, testing the responses, or just simply testing the patience of Washington. Well, a fun thing happened yesterday, Gons, coming from Politico again here. Headline, Russian jets collision with U.S. drone sparks diplomatic fury. I've seen some other outlets that sort of claim to be, quality independent analysis that say that they misrepresented what happened. This is not a Russian jet shot down a drone. There was no munition or ammunition fired, which would have been an actual act of war. But it's kind of some fun little hijinks here. A diplomatic row kicked off Tuesday after a Russian fighter jet harassed and then bumped a U.S. surveillance drone over the Black Sea, forcing U.S. pilots to ditch the uncrewed aircraft in the water. The collision added to the U.S.-Russian tensions that have already soared over the war in Ukraine. So there are some more sort of illustrative descriptions of what happened. But basically, there was a Reaper drone, MQ-9 Reaper drone, flying over the Black Sea, obviously gathering intelligence on the Russians and the war.
What is it doing there? Is it
Yeah.
allowed to be there?
It is technically international waters, so they were technically allowed to be there. But Russia saw them, scrambled a couple jets, and what proceeded was some sort of like Hollywood-style Top Gun plane pranks, where the Russian jets would come up, fly next to it. They'd at one point they dumped fuel onto the drone just in midair. I mean, it is full on Top Gun hijinks. Yeah. And then
some hazing.
Exactly. Some aviation hazing going on. I think it's a whole nother issue that they were hazing a robot, an unmanned drone.
This is, it can go into the personhood argument, they can.
Exactly. So it was reckless. I mean, it was kind of reckless behavior. And actions like this would not have taken place without at least some very high up, approval. This is extremely dangerous things to do. And while they were doing that, the propeller of the MQ-9 Reaper drone got bumped by one of the Russian aircraft. Oops. And that put it down. They had to ditch it into the sea. In the wake of the downing, the State Department summoned the Russian ambassador in Washington. summoned him. Anatoly Antonov, a department spokesperson who was not authorized to speak on the record because of department customs, said on Tuesday afternoon that Antonov met with Assistant Secretary for European and Eurasian Affairs, Karen Dodd-Fried, quote, to discuss Russia's unsafe and unprofessional operations over the Black Sea, which resulted in the downing today of an unmanned U.S. aircraft. Department spokesperson Ned Price said earlier that the administration was briefing allies and partners on the collision and was in touch with Russian officials about it as well. The U.S. ambassador in Moscow, Lynn Tracy, has voiced concerns to the Russian Foreign Ministry. Yeah, good. The MQ-9 Reaper drone was making a routine flight. Yeah, routine spy operation over Russia before it was intercepted by two Russian Su-27 fighter jets on Tuesday. The warplanes dumped jet fuel on the drone and flew in front of it on a reckless, I love this this description, reckless, environmentally unsound and unprofessional manner.
I love that. That is great.
It's
bad for the environment the way you guys are hazing this drone, this innocent drone. What did the drone ever do?
That was according to a statement from U.S. European Command. Unsound, environmentally unsound. Oh, those polluting Russians.
This is not ESG compliant behavior.
Yeah, this is really gonna ding Russia's ESG score. Yeah. One of the Russian aircraft then struck the drone's propeller, rendering it unflyable and prompting U.S. operators to ditch it in the Black Sea. Quote, in fact, this unsafe and unprofessional act by the Russians nearly caused both aircraft to crash. Air Force General James Hecker, commander of the U.S. Air Forces in Europe, said in a statement, quote, U.S. and allied aircraft will continue to operate in international airspace, and we call on the Russians to conduct themselves professionally and safely. So you see from across the board, the response is,
that is funny.
Russia, this was very unprofessional of you. You know, you can see the language of this is very sort of de-escalatory.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, this was, you know, they're really going pretty far to make a point to scold Russia without making it look like this was so bad as to treat it like an act of war.
It's also easier that it was a drone and not an actual human.
And that's another part of it.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about the theater, not the theater of war, but the theater that is war and politics, it's the perfect situation. I'm very skeptical that this was an authentic thing that happened. But there's a couple different angles that can be taken on it. Let's see, a couple more little quotes here. Quote, these aggressive actions by Russian aircrew are dangerous and could lead to miscalculation and unintended escalation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, I think that's exactly the point there. It said this was had the potential to escalate the situation. And I think that is in line with how we've seen Putin act in the past. You know, he thinks already that there is a limit to the U.S.'s involvement, and he wants to find out what it is. Now, if the U.S. took this, as they probably legally should have, took it as an act of war and reacted to it, that's World War III right there. Yeah. They had an opportunity. This was the chance to say, if we really wanted to jump in and start the war, this could have, and maybe still is, enough to take everything to the next level where America is actually, in boots on the ground, involved, performing military operations against Russia, which would be a huge disaster. That's the start of World War III. Some interesting. Let me finish this article here for you.
I do find
Senator
it interesting.
Roger Wicker of Mississippi. Oh,
nope.
What'd you say?
Nope. Continue.
Okay. Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi, the top Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee, said the episode served as a, quote, wake up call to isolationists about the threat posed by Vladimir Putin. So this Roger Wicker guy in Mississippi, He's like, yeah, wake up. We got to get involved in this war now. No more isolationist mentality. And, quote, Putin wants nothing more than for incidents like these to push the United States away from our support of Ukraine and prevent us from rolling back his destructive policies, Wicker said in a statement. Quote, we must choose to project strength against our adversary, not appease this dictator with words or so-called de-escalation.
We want war. Yeah, Wicker wants war.
Guy, not only do I think this Roger Wicker guy is a dummy, he's either a dummy or specifically wants World War III to start.
Yeah,
because
he benefits somehow.
Yeah, I don't think that Putin ordered this to scare away the U.S. from helping. That doesn't make any sense. No. It's much more in his character that this was a provocation. He kind of knows. Does America want to jump in and start World War III, or don't they? Well, I'll play a little prank and push their buttons and see if they are ready to step in, which is not smart. Nobody really wants to do it. But if the sort of saber rattling continues, he's basically throwing down the gauntlet and telling the U.S. to make a decision. You know, if you're going to fight, let's fight, which is concerning.
This is sort of the slap, the face slap before a duel.
Right. Take the glove off and slap him with the glove. You know, there's a chance to walk away, but it is purposefully provocative. I think this Wicker guy thinking that that's like a warning from Putin. He's either really stupid or is trying to trick us all into something.
We need to go to war. Buy these weapons.
Yeah, of course.
Now, tied to manufacturers or something.
The timing of this is incredible. So this happened yesterday. But let's lay down some interesting background over the past few days.
Yes, this almost made ties with the economy thing going.
Yes. Now we're going to this is going to start tying in with the economy, and it's specifically going to center around Saudi Arabia. Almost brought this to the show the other day. Didn't. Glad it's here today. Oops, this is the paywall version. Why do we keep getting the paywall version?
I don't know. What article are you talking about?
Saudi Arabia. The first Saudi Arabia.
U.S. security pledge?
Yes.
Yeah, that was all you. That was all you, bro.
Yeah, it was all me, and I don't know why. Hold on, I'm getting it. Do you have a paywall or not?
I do. But I'm
you
getting
do.
rid of it. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Everybody, please hold while we hack the mainframe. ChatGPT.
Do you want me to get it?
Hack the Wall Street Journal. What's that?
I can start reading it, and you can just pick it up.
Yeah. Why don't you start?
So the headline is Saudi Arabia seeks U.S. security pledges nuclear help for peace with Israel. And it says Saudi Arabia is asking the U.S. to provide security guarantees and help to develop its civilian nuclear program as Washington tries to broker diplomatic relations between the kingdom and Israel. People involved in discussions between the two countries said, striking a normalization deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
Okay. So this came out on the 9th, March 9th. And so we're looking at a week ago now, right? Yeah. So a week ago,
last Thursday, so not almost a week ago.
Biden and all the big wigs there met with Saudi Arabia trying to broker a deal. And this deal was the U.S. would continue to act as security for Saudi Arabia, which we have for a long time. That's been our sort of whole thing, is we are sort of guns for hire for Saudi Arabia. And so continue these contracts, maybe even escalate those things, help Saudi Arabia out with nuclear energy.
We lost you.
Involvement with Saudi Arabia. And of course, Saudi Arabia is very important for oil and for strategic reasons in the Middle East. But the one problem has been for us is Saudi Arabia's contentious relationship with Israel. So we came in last week, say, hey, okay, why don't you be friends with Israel? You will help you out with security and your nuclear program. Let's make a deal here. And this deal sort of revolved around Iran. So right now we've got multiple fronts. We've got China, problem. Russia, problem. Iran is our main problem in the Middle East. And Iran has, voiced support and even helped Russia with drones recently. And Iran is not a huge fan of the U.S. for a lot of good reasons. And Israel, being our sort of main friend over there, also has problems with Iran. Now, the problem is if Saudi Arabia starts making friends with Iran, we're going to have some pretty severe diplomatic contention there. So, long story short, they had that meeting a week ago. Now, let's go to CNBC. And CNBC had this, when did this come out? A few days later?
Today.
Man, they are hitting me with paywalls across the board. Why is CNBC? Okay, here we go. And the headline at CNBC is the China brokered Saudi-Iran deal has big repercussions for the Middle East and the U.S. And this came out today. So at the exact same time that the U.S. was trying to schmooze Saudi Arabia and get them on our side to smooth out relations with Israel so that could be a strategic position against Iran, at the exact same time, you had China making their own deal with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. Last week, Saudi Arabia is just sitting there taking meetings with China, taking meetings with the U.S., trying to see who made the best deal. And turns out, not good news, China made them the best deal. When arch rivals Saudi Arabia and Iran announced they were restoring diplomatic relations, much of the world was stunned, not only because of the breakthrough after years of mutual animosity, suspected attacks and espionage between the two countries, but because of who brokered the deal. China. Did you see what happened here? At the exact same time, Saudi Arabia is in the middle. The U.S. comes in and says, hey, help us fight Iran, make friends with Israel. It'll be you, me, Israel. It'll be great. The next day, China comes in and says, hey, be friends with Iran. It'll be you, me, Iran against Israel and against the U.S. There was a schmoozing happening. There was some bartering, some deal making happening at the exact same time. And unfortunately, they went with the China deal, which is a big problem because now you have Saudi Arabia, one of our major energy sources, teaming up with China and Iran are two of our biggest adversaries going on right now that we're not currently at war with. So you start looking at how the teams are starting to line up. It is really not looking great for the U.S. And this is not just in sort of a military sense, not just a political sense, but also a military sense, raising the stakes for World War III, raising the stakes for how we respond to Russia taking out a drone. Because in the context of this drone accident, the drone hijinks, is our deal
you're
from
cutting
Saudi
out. You're cutting
Arabia.
out quite a bit. We didn't hear anything you said in the last few seconds there.
Okay, so we had just lost out on the deal with Saudi Arabia, which means not only do we have, our oil deals at risk, but they have teamed up with our adversaries, China and Iran. China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Russia, North Korea, they've all pretty much chosen a side. So it's not just politically, not just militarily, but we also see this putting context on another weird thing that happened in regards to all the financial stress. In the midst of the SVB collapse, the Signature Bank collapse, the whatever the other one was, banks collapsing, the Western financial system crumbling apart before our eyes, CNN.com is reporting Swiss Central Bank says it is ready to provide. Oh, this is the wrong. No, this is the wrong one. Does it have the Saudi detail in this one?
Yeah, Saudi backers not inclined to increase funding.
So, so this is actually an update. This is good. So, Switzerland's central bank said Wednesday it was ready to provide financial support to Credit Suisse after shares in the country's second biggest lender crashed as much as 30%.
That's today.
In a joint statement. What's that?
That was today that it crashed.
Yes, that was today. So Credit Suisse is a Swiss bank that, as of yesterday, things were public that now it was getting ready to collapse. Yeah. It was this big shenanigans. People didn't think that the ripples of SVB and the other American financial, emergencies would ripple across the world. But lo and behold, the next day, Credit Suisse was having a lot of issues. They were, I think the odds were, as of this morning, it had gotten up to 47% that they were going to default. And one of the biggest shareholders in Credit Suisse is the Saudi National Bank. The National Bank of Saudi Arabia says the chairman of the Saudi National Bank, Credit Suisse's biggest shareholder, they own about 10%.
It's just under 10%. It'll explain why.
Just 9.8%. They're the biggest single shareholder in Credit Suisse, so they have a lot to lose. A lot to lose if the bank goes under. The chairman of Saudi National Bank, Credit Suisse's biggest shareholder, following a capital increase last fall, said earlier Wednesday it would not increase its stake in Credit Suisse. So as the biggest shareholder, they can put more money into the bank and save it from its problems. They can give it some liquidity. What's that?
Buy low. They can come in and when it's as a distressed asset almost and come in and take it over if they want to.
But providing some cash, getting something for it, but providing some cash so that the bank could recover. Because really, that's all these banks really need. That's why they're falling, is because they don't have cash. If they have some cash, then they can keep going.
Liquid.
Yeah. Quote, the answer is absolutely not. For many reasons, Ammar al-Qudari told Bloomberg on the sidelines of a conference in Saudi Arabia. Quote, I'll cite the simplest reason, which is regulatory and statutory. We now, and this is their excuse, we now own 9.8% of the bank. If we go above 10%, all kinds of new rules kick in, whether be it by our regulator or the European regulator or the Swiss regulator, he said. We're not inclined to get into a new regulatory regime. So you have Saudi Arabia, they're about to lose $60 billion, whatever their stake is in the bank. It's about to just evaporate into thin air. And instead of coming in and saving it, they're like, no, we'll just take the L.
I wonder why. Maybe they got an account with China now that they don't have to worry much about this little side deal.
It's almost like, their new buddies, China and Iran, don't have any interest in holding up the crumbling Western financial system. So it almost reads as an act of war. Saudi Arabia giving up $60 billion to just allow one of the West's biggest banks to crumble right before their eyes, just days after they rejected a deal with the U.S. and went with the Chinese Iran deal. It's a really big set of circumstances that are sort of totally obscured unless you kind of see the background of the U.S.-China deal making with Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So now, and also that gives the context through which the U.S. so badly needs to stay level-headed as far as Russia taking out the drone. there was it was in another article. I think it was a Washington Post article where they're describing Jake Sullivan and the conversation goings on between the U.S. and Russia. And the quote was, it was like literally Jake Sullivan talking to the Russian ambassador and says, "Here's our message. Don't do that again, please. Please don't blow up another drone. We really don't like it. It's very unprofessional. It's very environmentally unsound. Please don't do that again. You get one, okay? You get to blow up one drone, but I'm telling you, don't blow up another drone, or else we'll have to do something about it." And that something about it is get into World War III, where we know now for sure that Saudi is aligned with Iran, aligned with China, aligned with Russia. Whereas, it's basically the U.S. and Europe, and Europe's no help. Sorry, Europe.
This will be interesting as far as the U.S. presidential election this next year. And I only bring that up because I came across this article from Reuters, but from November of last year, so November 2022, and the headline is Saudi Arabia's Dar Al Arkan signs deal with Trump family for Oman project. So Trump has a deal with people in Saudi Arabia to build golf courses and stuff like that, a hotel and villa and everything. I mean, if Saudi Arabia as a whole is moving away from the U.S. in terms of, or at least the West, in its deal making and kind of going with China's leadership, and what happens to these deals with perhaps another U.S. president? I don't know. It's just the tangled web is getting messier and messier.
I mean, we're getting it's on one hand, it seems like the chaos is increasing, but honestly, the order, the new world order, if you will, is starting to reveal itself. So we've got taking sides here. I think you're working on putting together a webpage over on the website there to try to keep track of the teams here, who's going to be on what team. And there's also some interesting rumblings from South America too. We're not forgetting about you, South America. These are funny outlets. I took this one from ChinaDaily.com.
.cn, so it's a Chinese outlet.
Yeah, right. So we've got a Chinese outlet headline: Venezuelan president says U.S. imperialism is in decline. Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro said Saturday that the U.S. hegemony in Latin America, the Caribbean, and the rest of the world is in decline. Quote, "The U.S. empire is in historical decline and no longer has anything to offer for the good of the people of Latin America and the Caribbean. Nothing. On the contrary, all its policies are backward," Maduro said in an interview with Argentine media from Caracas. However, quote, "There is still an expansive wave of ultra-right groups promoted by the White House that seeks to finance and push ahead with anti-democratic, totalitarian, exclusionary, and ideologized projects to generate intolerance and hatred in Latin America societies."
Wow. Okay.
So you've got, you've got Venezuela. Not a huge fan. Sounds like he's changing sides, or at least taking China's side there. You've got TASS, which is sort of the official Russian news agency here, with a headline: Brazilian president says he won't travel to Russia or Ukraine due to the conflict. Okay, he has a quote here. He's not going to go to Russia or Ukraine because there's war, and he doesn't want to put himself at risk. But it goes on here. The Brazilian president said on February 10 he would like to visit Beijing to discuss the settlement of the Ukrainian conflict with Chinese President Xi.
No, don't switch.
So he's taken a trip to Beijing to talk to Xi on March 28th. And, of course, we know Argentina is in snug with the Chinese. They're letting them build their naval base down there in Ushuaia. So South America seems to have been successfully wooed by China, which is not leaving a whole lot of friends for the U.S. right now.
It's getting a little scarce. But, Canada has been pretty. I don't know if they're openly well, Trudeau said something about China, didn't he? Wasn't he like, hey, I like the way the Chinese do things?
He's jealous.
He
America admires Xi Jinping.
The United States is really, this could be bad because as things unfold here, you might find, Lord forbid, there's some kind of disbandment of NATO where all these nations are like, China's deal looks pretty good. We're going to keep the peace going here, which is interesting because the U.S. being sort of the aggressors and all this stuff in Ukraine, or maybe not directly, but of course, the main instigators.
Yeah.
It's almost as if in the context of World War III, they're the ones trying to get this thing rolling, even though they're not really, making the final, pusher into a true hot war. But really, if we want to, the trend is right now that China is the one coming in with common sense and talking and trying to make an actual deal. Whereas the U.S., we got Biden, and nobody has confidence in Biden to do any kind of real true foreign relations type of stuff. So, and maybe that was strategic on the part of China to get a guy like Biden in office that we can pull off all this stuff, all these other deals with these, especially the nations that are a little bit more anti-America. It'd be easier to get with them and try to broker some kind of deal.
Well, it's all that soft power. You've seen China really nail it on the soft power in the last decade, whereas the U.S., keeps and kept kind of bullying people around in getting involved in elections, messing around with South American elections. Yeah, pushing these South American countries around a bit. The Venezuelan economy collapse was a wonderfully engineered U.S. project. So you've got the U.S. with a history, a recent history entirely marked by, financially destroying smaller countries and bullying smaller countries with debt traps. And China also is doing debt traps. But at this moment, China has the sort of soft power that the U.S. used to control around the world. So I think as we get closer and Russia is being allowed to sort of bully U.S. drones like this, send a little message. The fact that it has been entirely de-escalatory to the point where literally saying that, these Russian pilots accidentally hit the drone and stuff after bullying it, shows that I think the U.S. realizes that they're not quite have the positioning that they'd like to.
I'm going to make a sports ball analogy. It's one of the only analogies I can truly understand and relay to you all. One of my favorite teams, or my favorite NBA team, is the LA Lakers because I grew up in Southern California. I watched the Lakers since I was a little boy. And one of the criticisms in the sports world of the Lakers is that they kind of run their whole team as a mom and pop shop. It's a family business, all this kind of stuff. Whereas in the last 10, 15 years, the NBA moved to more of a statistician. There's a lot of computer science and data collection. And there's a whole different vibe of how to analyze talent and how NBA is managed and all that, how people manage games and how, there's a whole different science to it now. But the Lakers have been kind of this old fashioned, we want to get stars to come to LA because we're LA. And I feel like America has that same mentality where it's like, we're America. So we're going to just do that. And meanwhile, the world is sort of moving away from the way the United States, or not just their bullying, but just the way things are done. And another example of this is China's Belt and Road. Belt and Road's been developing for a long time.
Yeah.
They have deals, economic deals into Africa. You got Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, Egypt. They all have deals with China, infrastructure deals to help with the Belt and Road. And so, while the U.S. were boasting about how great they are or whatever, helping out other countries, trying to take out certain leaders in certain nations, China was doing a pretty good job of developing their roots all over the world. And we've known about this for a long time. This is nothing new, but in terms of making that sports analogy, it's like a team that's actually doing something cutting edge, as opposed to thinking that your tradition and everything is going to uphold some kind of standard. So I don't know, just that it was in the context of teams and wars and stuff like that. It's apropos, but
one last mention here, because I mean, we gotta know, if we're talking about a world war, these kind of global movements through history, we gotta get the Pope's take on it.
Space Pope reptilian.
It's coming from Reuters.com. Very fun. Pope says Ukraine war fueled not just by Russian Empire.
Oh.
The war in Ukraine.
It's U.S., but go ahead.
The war in Ukraine is driven by the interests of several empires and not just of Russia's, Pope Francis said in an interview published on Friday. Francis said the conflict was fueled by imperial interests, not just of the Russian Empire, but of empires from elsewhere.
He probably means U.S.
Of course he does.
Maybe China too.
Yeah, probably China. Probably he's just telling it how it is at this point.
The unspoken part of it is the imperial interests of the Vatican. This is the true thing that he's not saying, right?
Well, he may be saying the quiet part quietly here in a second. He expressed a readiness to talk to President Vladimir Putin to call for peace. The pontiff was speaking to Italian Swiss television, RSI, in an interview due to be broadcast on Sunday. Extracts were published on Friday by Italian dailies La Repubblica, La Stampa, and the Corriere della Sera. It was really good. Francis, who is 86 and marks the 10th anniversary of his election on March 13th. Oh, wow. Missed it.
Wait a minute.
Also said he would resign if he got too tired and lost the capacity to govern the Roman Catholic Church. Last month, he said that the papal resignations should happen in only exceptional circumstances, like World War III. His predecessor, Benedict the 16th, who died on December 31st, 1995, became the first pontiff to resign in about 600 years when he stepped down in 2013. Asked what would lead him to make the same decision to quit, Francis said, quote, "A tiredness that doesn't make you see things clearly, a lack of clarity, of knowing how to evaluate situations." Francis said he was, quote, "a bit ashamed to use a wheelchair due to a knee ailment. Quote, I am old. I have less physical resistance. The knee problem was a physical humiliation, even if the recovery is going well now," he said. And so you've got the Pope talking about quitting soon, guys.
Because his knee gave out? Come on.
His knee hurts, and he's tired.
Soft,
he's
Pope.
tired, and his
Come
knee
on.
hurts.
Let's go, Pope. Play through that injury.
He can't Pope during a world war
yes, he can.
with a knee
perhaps
like that.
The most important time. Give him the robot knee. Let's go. Give him the kangaroo leg. Let's just get this guy whatever help he needs to, usher in the technocracy.
I think Radcliffe, or whatever his name was, the last guy, the first guy to resign in 600 years.
Yeah.
I think he's setting a precedent. What was it?
Isn't it Ratzinger?
Something. Yeah, that's what it is. He set a precedent. And I think Francis is like, oh my gosh, wait, I can just quit? I don't have to do this anymore? Oh my goodness, let me out of here. Let me out of this deal. I'm tired.
I just realized it's the 15th. I believe today is the exact 12th anniversary of Canary Cry Radio in general. I think it was March 15th, wasn't it?
Was it 15th or 16th? Yeah, it was sometime around here.
Well, here's the problem. I went to canarycryradio.com to double check. Not working. Is the website working for you? It's down. Okay, so it's not just...
Yeah, it's down right now. You'd have to check maybe the RSS feed. Yeah, is it not on your Canary Cry calendar?
It's not. That's what surprised me. It says, beware of the Ides of March today. Yeah. So let me take a look.
Let's do this. CCR episode 001. Yeah, it was somewhere around here. Wow, we missed that. I mean, I guess after we celebrated our 10-year last year, we can't celebrate an anniversary every year, Gons. That's crazy.
All right. I'm just saying. It's been 12 years, man.
We missed it. We should have don't know, playing something or something. I'm looking it up here. Canary Cry News Talk. Oh, everything's coming up News Talk right now.
Yeah.
Give me Canary Cry Radio. Do you have an ability to see when that first episode came out?
I'm trying. It only gives me, Apple Podcasts only gives me so many episodes here. Hold on.
Oh, yeah, we had that little issue, didn't we? All right, well, let's take a little break. We'll figure it out as we go here.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense because we would be partying, celebrating 12 years of podcasting. Celebrate with us. Go to Canary Cry Radio. No, canarycry.party. There you will find a tree of links to everything from where to listen to the show, watch the show, how to support the show, how to connect with us and the community.
Welcome to Canary Cry Party. It's the place you wanna be. So say welcome to Canary Cry. Gameplay, Canary Cry Party.
That's right. Go check it out. CanaryCry.party. You got all the links to everything you could possibly want. Get connected with the community. Find all our resources. We've got not only our big social medias, but we've got CanaryCry.community, which is our non-algoized Canary Cry sort of social hangout zone there. It's very cool. Go jump in. You can also get in the Discord channel over there as well. All sorts of fun stuff over at canarycry.party. Poco Joe says Spotify says March 16th, 2012 was episode 1. Okay, so tomorrow is our 11th anniversary. Well, happy
12th.
Anniversary, Guns.
No, 11th. You're right. I can't do math. Yeah, Face Like the Sun was 2011. That's probably what I was thinking.
That's right. Yeah, well, happy anniversary, buddy.
All right, good job.
And with that, let's thank some producers.
It's break time. Come on, take a break.
Take a break, folks. We're going to thank some producers because we're on the value for value model. We take no corporate money whatsoever, no mind control advertising, no bending the knee to corporate interests in order to pose as independent media. If independent media is taking corporate money, what exactly are they independent from again? I don't know. If you figure it out, let me know.
And by the way, I must be blind because the calendar does, in fact, mark the 16th as the beginning of the show. So.
Yeah, okay. I figured that would be weird if that was not on the Canary Cry calendar.
I'm just don't know how to read calendars.
Yeah, I get it. You're over 40 now, Gons. It's hard to. Life gets hard. You just want to interior decorate. You just want to nest.
My knee hurts. Just want to retire.
Yeah. So here's the thing, folks. We take no corporate money whatsoever. We are entirely supported by the producers, and the producers are you. If you get value from the show, put value back in. That's the value for value model. It's the natural way of things. And so, you can put value back in all sorts of ways with your time, your talent, or your treasure. It does not have to be financially. And certainly right now, in the midst of a banking collapse, many of you are making responsible choices as to save your money for a rainy day. Maybe this is that rainy day. But someday, if you want to produce the show, keep the show going, because that is exactly how it works. The show does not exist without the producership of people who get value from it. We thanked our executive producer, Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes, at the top of the show. And we've got a handful of people here to thank now. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no T-shirt council, no supply drop, although in times like this is exactly when our T-shirt council members and our supply drop members are saving our butts, Gons. So a big fat thank you to all of our Canary Cry T-shirt council members and our supply droppers. It's those monthly producerships that make it so we're not full on panicking right now, having a podcast meltdown. But I also want to thank some of these producers who came in for this episode. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, we're starting with producer Tammy C.
Tammy C. Thank you very much.
That's right. Producer Tammy C comes in for $21.11, $21.11, with a little note that says, "Love you guys. Have a great show." Thank you very much, producer Tammy C.
Thank you, Tammy C.
Next up, we've got producer Morgan E, who is on a 5-episode streak.
Thank you, Morgan E.
Yeah, and Morgan E sent a wonderful message about some producership. I have not responded to it, but Morgan E, I got you on the list. I'll get back to you. Next up, we've got producer Sir Moore of Night of the Burning Chariots. Comes in with 1111, 205 episodes in a row.
Oh yeah, Streakalicious.
Thank you, Sir Moore.
That's right. Thank you, Sir Moore. Next up, we've got Sir LX Protocol V2, Night of the Berean Protocol. Pocket full of 7s, 148 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Sir LX Protocol V2.
And that's...
Not sure why there was a cow.
Why is that
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Sorry. It's supposed to be a coin drop sound for Sir Alex Protocol, but turns out it was a cow. Interesting.
Fine. Well, no problem.
You never know. You never know when you push buttons on this show what's going to happen. So
that's right. Again, it's the charm of a human live podcast. No AI perfection here, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's it. That is the list for today of people who came in support of the show for 777 or more. Thank you very much for doing that. Titles you to have a note read on the show. And then we got our streakers who are coming in under the 777 cutoff. Okay. Let's thank them now.
Right.
Starting with Dame Gale, Canary Whisperer, and Lady of X's and O's, 235 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Dame Gale, also the executive producer of this episode. So appreciate that.
No. What am I getting
Dame
wrong? Lynn.
Oh, Dame Lynn. I'm sorry.
Is the exec.
My bad. I'm
Dame
sorry.
Gale. It's keeping the streak going.
Okay.
Thank you, Dame Gale. Next, we got Sir Casey, the Shield Knight, 273 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Sir Casey.
We got Veronica D, 235.
Thank you, Veronica D.
Doctor Who Dundat's here with 37.
Thank you, Doctor Who Dundat.
Sir Scott, Knight of Truth, 262.
Thank you, Sir Scott.
There we go. That's all our financial producers for this episode. Thank you so much. If you would consider the value that this show brings to your life. Has anyone else tracked down the context of the drone accident and the Saudi Arabia situation and the teams aligning themselves on either side of the field for World War III and the U.S.'s desperate attempt to stave off the inevitable? Well, what kind of value does that bring to your life? Hopefully something. And why don't you consider, in these times, helping out the show, producing with your time, your talent, or your treasure. If you want to learn more, you can go to Canary Cry Radio. Nope. Yes. Nope. CanaryCry.support. CanaryCry.support. And thank you for your patronage.
All right. So we're going to give you all the streaks here for all the under 777 folk.
Oh yeah, Streakalicious. Women rule.
And
Canary Cry.support.
Stop and take my money.
Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage.
Yes, it's wake-up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
All right. Before we jump into our topic here for this block, I just want to mention that I found an op-ed by Roger Wicker. Remember the guy that was in one of the articles earlier that was really like, hey, this is the drone article. He's like, hey, let's go to war. Let's go. Kind of makes sense. I found this just impromptu here. He has an op-ed from August 11th, 2022. So just a few months ago. And it's titled, A National Defense Renaissance. America defense needs a renaissance. And it goes through China and how China's been doing so amazing and developing and blah, blah, blah. And it says here, there's a blueprint for this realignment, speaking about China taking over. Technological breakthroughs in ballistic missiles made lethal by the long reach of Strategic Air Command proved decisive in the Cold War's early military balance. Why did I highlight that? That makes no sense. Anyway, I continue. I got a couple more highlights here. International cooperation should also take on a moral and rhetorical dimension. Freedom remains our most potent advantage in this great power competition. And then later, but this will require a fundamental restoration of American self-confidence. He's very reflective of the Reagan days when, things were a little bit more shored up during the Cold War. The world needs or what the world needs is good, old-fashioned American hard power. We should start rebuilding it. That's the end of the op-ed. We should start rebuilding this old-fashioned American hard power.
That's right.
Which again, I mean, this speaks directly to what I was just saying, how there's this sort of exceptionalism. I'm like, American power. It's just like, yeah, I guess, but the world's a little different now. And I was listening to some stuff about the economic situation with all the banks and how, a bank run today is different from 10, 15, 20 years ago, where something happens at a bank, people are knocking on the doors of the bank, hey, give me back my money. But now it's just people going on the websites, making clicks. You can have a few thousand people making clicks, and that can destroy a bank. So anyway, just a whole different world we're living in.
So you're saying that the U.S. shouldn't have hard power?
I'm not. No, that's not what I'm saying. But
okay.
But as far as the sort of tactics involved in how to, because we've been talking about a Cold War with China for years now, and China's been winning that Cold War. Let's just be honest in terms of taking over, and even more obvious now with these strategic moves with other countries. So anyway, as part of that whole debacle, leads us into COVID.
It's Corona time.
COVID-19, COVID-19, COVID-19,
COVID-19.
COVID-19, COVID-19, COVID-19.
Coronavirus.
I am vaccine. Vaccine, number one way.
This is coming from CBS News. Again, mainstream outlet. It's the kind of thing that might have gotten us, canceled on YouTube. But hey, CBS News reporting it. Headline: U.S. government agencies may have been double billed for projects in Wuhan, China. Records indicate. Probe launched. Yeah. Says here, the U.S. government may have made duplicate payments for projects at labs in Wuhan, China through the National Institute of Health and U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, according to records reviewed by CBS News. Quote, what I've found so far is evidence that points to double billing, potential theft of government funds. It is concerning, especially since it involves dangerous pathogens and risky research, end quote, said Diane Cutler, a former federal investigator with over 2 decades of experience combating white-collar crime and healthcare fraud. Cutler found evidence of possible double payment as she investigated U.S. government grants that supported high-risk research in China leading up to the COVID-19 pandemic. She was hired by Republican Senator Roger Marshall, who took her records to USAID and the internal watchdog at USAID, which launched a new probe, details of which have not been previously reported. Cutler said she has viewed over 50,000 documents and that the U.S. government may have made duplicate payments for possible medical supplies, equipment, travel, and salaries. Sources told CBS News that tens of millions of dollars could be involved. Sources familiar with the grant records did not dispute CBS News' reporting. A spokesperson for USAID declined to comment. A USAID Inspector General spokesperson declined to comment, quote, on the existence of a specific open investigation, end quote. The press office for NIH did not respond to CBS News' questions. Sources told CBS News that investigation of possible double billing could take at least 6 months to conclude. Marshall is now calling for a 9/11 style commission. Wow. Okay. Quote, I think there's 1.1 million reasons that American taxpayers should care, he said. Quote, you have a plane crash. You'll have a plane crashes. This is not very good grammar there, guy. Quote, you'll have a plane crashes. We want to find out why the plane crashes. We go to any lengths to do that. And the hope is we don't have another plane crash for the same reason, end quote. While intelligence agencies have not been able to reach a consensus on the origin of the pandemic, the FBI and Energy Department have found an accidental lab leak is plausible. The Wuhan Institute of Virology conducted viral research in the city where the SARS-CoV-2 virus first emerged. And then it goes into some congressional hearing stuff that we know about, and that's the end of the article. So a few different things here. So the idea of this double billing, which, if we're talking about the U.S. bad actors, perhaps treasonous actors, doing things with China.
Or at least corrupt.
At least corrupt, yeah.
The whole, I mean, if you're going to talk about the Wuhan Institute of Virology and whether somebody would, I don't know, deny any possibility that it had anything to do with anything. I mean, it all leads, both the evidence and the motive leads to finances, leads to money.
Financial mismanagement, which has been
the
sort of
flow
the bigger
of money.
Yeah.
Even if it's not mismanagement,
the
use
narrative,
of money to the use of money to circumvent, scientific regulation in the U.S.
Yeah.
That's part of it. So it all comes down to the money. So if indeed the money is the sort of core justification in people's minds to do what they did, and then to defend against any possibility that Wuhan had anything to do with anything, of course there would be even the simplest kind of financial corruption, which is double billing,
Yeah, there are, and by the way, I think this kind of thing happens all the time, across companies and stuff in the U.S. It's pretty, I don't think it's very smart for the NIH to do something like this. I mean, I don't know. Don't they know that there are financial records of this stuff? I mean, it doesn't make any sense that they would try to pull it off and not cover it up. But the other thing that I found interesting is that this Republican here who sort of sponsored this research, Senator Roger Marshall, he came out and said he's calling for a 9/11 style commission, which, I get it. I understand what he's saying, because this is sort of I guess an economic, being taken advantage of economically for the U.S. That's why he mentions the American taxpayers and everything. But it just seems to me like similar to the word Nazis being sort of, I don't know, a dog whistle for politicians to always land on. It's like you're either a Nazi or you're acting like a Nazi or whatever. The 9/11 thing has been cheapened in the realm of politics because of a lot of reasons. But, in the most recent iteration, you have the Democrats and the leftist progressives saying that January 6th was a 9/11 style event, or 9/11 moment for the United States. And so for Marshall to use 9/11 as sort of an example for this goes to show that it continues to feed into the anti-China war narrative that obviously we're seeing. But also, the fruitlessness of politics, where it's kind of like, okay, well, is this really going to make a difference? Does it matter?
Well, I don't know. You could say all that. The funny thing for me, calling it a 9/11 commission style thing, is that the 9/11 commission had the missing 28 pages.
Yeah.
That they had the intelligence and the info, and the commission gathered some of the most critical facts about the truth about 9/11 and then omitted them from the report anyways. Yeah. So a 9/11 commission style thing is like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll go through the bureaucracy of investigating, and then we'll make sure to take a big redacted marker to the important details that people will really want to know. But is this not? Oh, so this is specifically around build projects to the Wuhan Institute.
Yes. That's why. See, I thought it was just sort of just China-U.S. relations and certain things. No, this is like Wuhan.
Well, I thought it was specifically COVID, because you've got the what is it called? The bill, the House bill that just passed, that's going to Biden here soon, to declassify the intelligence.
Yeah.
But this isn't intelligence. No. This is financial records that they're looking
into
here.
I think
it's kind of another angle to the whole thing.
Well, I really think the reason why Francis Collins, the former director of the NIH, stepped down. Remember, he stepped down at a very opportune time. It's kind of like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There are many reasons we've pointed out that, hey, this could be why he stepped down. This could be why. But this happening under his watch because he was the director of the NIH.
Right.
So, I mean, this is very bad if they find out that he was either aware of it or he's complicit in it or whatever it may be. So, hey, hopefully he can write a song about it, play some folky tunes, and stay out of jail. But
yeah,
we'll have to see how it all unfolds. But I do think it's interesting.
It's like another facet to the data that could shine light on what happened.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Interesting.
Yep. So, which, it's revealing, but also can be suggested now that, yes, there was a lab leak in China, but if we're kind of looking at it objectively, U.S. taxpayers funded COVID.
Yeah. Right.
We funded our dollars, our hard-earned dollars paid for the pandemic. Or paid for the virus that caused the pandemic anyway. So anyway, that's fun. We'll have to see how. And I think this article, especially in light of the Fauci tour, because Fauci, he doesn't have to do anything, but he came out. We covered him last episode. He was talking about different stuff and how the different wiggle room of the interesting, intricate descriptions of what a lab leak is, and it's still natural if they got it in the wild and blah blah blah. So we'll have to continue with the narrative, or continue monitoring the narrative here. But let's move on to some staple topics that we've covered over the years here.
My generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, the first generation to live forever, or the last generation that's going to die.
Yes, sir. This is all about the days of Noah.
But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
PopularMechanics.com had this headline: humans are on track to achieve immortality in 7 years, futurist says. 7 years.
That's pretty soon.
Pretty soon. Who is this individual? A new video from the YouTube channel Adagio revisits futurist Ray Kurzweil's ideas about how for humans both singularity and immortality are shockingly imminent, as in potentially just 7 years away. Both concepts may take a stretch of reality to attain, but Kurzweil and his supporters are quite limber. The idea of singularity is the moment AI exceeds beyond human control and rapidly transforms society. Predicting this timing is tricky, to say the least. But Kurzweil says one crucial step on the way to a potential 2045 singularity, which we've been covering for a long time, is the concept of immortality, possibly reached as soon as 2030. A familiar year for anybody who's been keeping track with the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030. And the rapid rise of AI is what will make it happen. Kurzweil believes that our technological and medical progress will grow to the point that robotics, he dubs them nanobots, will work to repair our bodies at the cellular level, as reported by Lifeboat, turning disease and aging around thanks to the continual work of robotic know-how. And then viola, immortality. Naturally, the promise of immortality by 2030 has believers and critics equally excited and skeptical repeatedly of Kurzweil's bold predictions. Of course, it doesn't help that humans are experiencing a downward trend in global life expectancy, and leaders in the space are predicting that if this singularity does occur, it will wipe out humans altogether. As scientists continue to work on the idea of self-repairing cells, we'll need some major steps forward on the cellular level to make immortality a possibility. Of course, it may all be moot if we can't figure out a way to fight off the dominance of the AI that keeps us alive.
This is kind of a weird article because Ray Kurzweil has some very specific ideas about how immortality can be achieved, including uploading your brain to a computer.
Right.
And the only practical thing they mention in Popular Mechanics is nanobots that repair your cells.
Yeah. I mean, it's an example that he's
actually what Ray is talking? Is this more of an article that is just saying like Ray Kurzweil exists still, people? He's still there.
It is very interesting. His name sort of dropped out of mainstream reporting for a few years, but he was really one of the first guys talking about the technological singularity and living forever and resurrecting his father, and the guy.
Right.
So Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, the nanobots thing is interesting to me as well. I have it highlighted here because it says Kurzweil believes that our technological and medical progress will grow to the point that robotics, he dubs them nanobots, will work as if nanobots hasn't been a thing.
Ray Kurzweil invented nanobots?
I don't think he invented it. I mean, maybe he coined it. I don't know. It's possible that he coined the term.
He did not. I do not think he did.
Okay, I don't think so either. But yeah, it's just interesting how it's like, oh, Ray Kurzweil said it, so it's a real thing. But if some anti-vaxxers say it, then it's just nonsense conspiracy theories, So
it's all based on this video, this entire article, and I'm looking now at other articles that are linked here, like that lifeboat article. Mm-hmm. They're talking about this video from a YouTube channel called Adagio, Adagio.
Yeah.
This YouTube channel has 642 subscribers.
Hey.
What is this? What is this
I don't know.
Popular Mechanics article being written about some YouTuber? This is just some guy.
I don't know. It's very
His
strange.
videos have like 600 views a piece.
This is part of the new media thing where they can kind of similar to cherry picking.
Who is this? This has to be the channel of like a recently fired mainstream reporter or something.
Somebody, maybe left Pop Mechanics got fired by somebody in the mainstream. I don't know. But also, this is an opportunity to bring up a topic that I think we covered it briefly, but it's an article from Fortune from February 23rd, a few weeks ago. And the headline here is reverse aging already possible? Drugs that could treat aging might already be on the pharmacy shelves. There's a couple fun things here that I thought was interesting, and we'll get to some of the more thematic points here. But it says at 67 years old, Dr. Nur Barzilai looks about the same as, if not younger than he did 10 years ago. It's apparent in side-by-side photos, and it's what most people know him. And it's what most people who know him say. Barzilai lives a healthy lifestyle. He exercises every day, eats right, and practices intermittent fasting. He's also been taking the diabetes drug metformin off label for 10 years. He's never been diagnosed with diabetes or prediabetes, the condition for which the drug is approved and prescribed, but takes it for different off-label reasons. Quote, we know that it targets aging, said Barzilai, who is a professor of medicine and genetics at Albert Einstein College of Medicine and director of the American Federation for Aging Research. Quote, people on metformin have 30% lower rates of almost every kind of cancer. It delays cognitive decline. Even people with diabetes who are obese and have more disease to start with, but are on metformin, have lower mortality rates than people without diabetes who aren't on the drug. Metformin is just one of many medications, including other old ones, and some brand new inventions that academic researchers and biotech startups are exploring to slow, stop, and perhaps even reverse aging.
So that's interesting.
I thought that was interesting that there's already a product out there, not for the purpose of slowing down aging, but people are using it for that. It's like a mature version of the NyQuil fad or something. It's like, oh, I want to change my state, but it's actually like preventing aging. I just thought it was.
Yeah. What's weird too, though, is metformin is one of these really controversial drugs. Like if you go on the internet, you search metformin, there are entire websites and blogs and accounts all about how metformin will give you cancer. There's like tons of people who refuse to take it. It's for diabetes.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of like an anti-vax, how anti-vax used to be,
right. Right.
Not the current form, and there's like huge communities who are devoted to talking about how metformin is a drug being prescribed to like kill you and give you cancer, and you don't need it and all this stuff.
It's possible that this sort of thing, the articles like these, is a longer term setup for, a potential anti-human sentiment that can be garnered. You know what I mean? So, for example, if you're not for these drugs that can help you, they're obviously helping you. It helps this guy, this doctor guy. What, you want to die early? So it's like I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah,
so targeting undead cells, dozens of biotechs want to be the first to realize that promise through drugs called senolytics, talking about immortality, or at least reverse aging. In certain diseases, these pharmaceuticals can clear out toxic, old, dysfunctional cells and leave only young, healthy, well-functioning ones behind. Senolytic dasatinib, Sprycel, is FDA approved for certain types of chronic myelogenous leukemia. Here's why researchers think senolytics could do more than treat one specific disease, and it goes into some more details that are a little bit boring, so we'll skip over that. Understanding biological age. So this is where it gets more fun, not more fun, but just, the end of it. While zombie cells build up in the aging body, wreaking havoc as their numbers grow, critical changes are taking place on the surface of DNA too. That is, in the epigenome, a landscape of proteins and chemicals that sits atop your genetic material. These changes over time are the result of your environment, behaviors, and exposures throughout your lifetime. Think pollution, trauma, diet, exercise, and secondhand smoke. They don't change your DNA, but they change the way your DNA acts. Genes that once functioned perfectly may at some point in life slow down, speed up, shut off, or just go generally haywire. Any dysregulation can cause disease or the signs and symptoms of old age. Epigenetic changes are like scratches on a record. You can still hear the music, but it's not what it used to be. Led by Harvard Medical School professor and molecular geneticist David Sinclair, PhD, Tally Health is already bringing epigenetic approaches to aging directly to consumers. The company offers a cheek swab test that estimates customers' biological age, how old they seem based on their epigenetics rather than their birth year. A couple quotes, and then I'm going to skip down here for now. So right now they're using it to, give sort of advice on customers on how they should change their lifestyle. For now, the means to turn back the clock are mostly lifestyle changes, but Sinclair, who has founded several biotechs and others, are researching and developing drugs that might slow or restart the clock so genes will act like they're young again. Sinclair and his collaborators have shown that this is possible in the eyes of blind mice. In newborn mice, if the optic nerve, the nerve that carries messages from the retina to the brain, is damaged, it will recover. But in old mice, it can no longer heal. In Sinclair's lab, they crushed the optic nerves of mice to blind them. The serious injury to the eye caused epigenetic changes that resemble those that happen in old age. They then injected the nerves with genes that contained factors they expected would reprogram the genes to behave like they were young again. The treatment reversed the age-related epigenetic changes in the eyes, rescued retinal cells, and led to regeneration of neurons. Since then, Sinclair and his colleagues have corrected similar age-related epigenetic changes in muscle and kidney tissues. Other researchers have successfully used the technique to extend the overall lifespan of mice. Sinclair expects to release results of his study, which tests this concept in primates in a few months. The holy grail, of course, is to erase the scratches that time puts on our own epigenetic records. Sinclair says that's coming. It goes into some other treatment issues at the very end here. Targeting the health span, no matter which approach becomes the first prescription drug for aging, researchers in the area tend to agree it's coming soon. It would be expected to improve and extend life not only for average older adults, but also for those who currently tend to get chronic diseases and die sooner. Childhood cancer survivors, people living with HIV, people living in poverty. Researchers predict the implications will be huge when the healthy years of life last longer for everyone. Economist Andrew Scott calculated, because we want to know about lifespan with, our economy, calculated that a slowdown in aging that increases life expectancy by just 1 year would be worth $38 trillion. A 10-year increase would be worth $367 trillion. Quote, that's because with this kind of increase in life expectancy, we're not spending that time in the hospital. We're not sick, Barzilai said. Quote, we're shopping, we're traveling, we're participating in society, we're living life, and that's what we want. And yes, that is what we want. But also, kind of a stretch to start arguing that you extend your life and all of a sudden we got trillions of more dollars flowing through the economy. But
what's the idea there? If they're talking about they extend every single life by a year, it's kind of the idea there.
I think it's just, the life expectancy 1 year. Researchers believe the implications will be huge. Economist Andrew Scott calculated slowing down aging that increases life expectancy. Yeah, so the average probably. I
love it. I love how even in the context of extending a human life,
economic.
Hey, look, I think everybody could say, like, yeah, if I could live an extra year, I probably would. If I could, this sounds okay. I mean, I don't know how much transhumanism I would participate in to do that, but just in general, the thought of adding a year to someone's life, that's a year with your loved ones, a year of watching the sunrise, a year of eating your favorite foods and enjoying the miracle of life that's been given to us by God. And he's like, no, yeah, if you make everybody live a year longer, then think of all the money, just the commoditization of increasing life. Think of all the money you could make if you live another year.
Well, I mean, it does make sense. Buddy. More customers, right? They're not dying. They're buying.
It makes sense, but it is also philosophically sort of repulsive, is my point.
Hey, Basil, there will be more listeners of the podcast the longer they live. Come on,
for an extra year. Yeah, exactly.
But this is
you're making my point for me. I appreciate that.
But this is kind of mark of the beastie. It's a very looking at human beings is nothing more than a commodity of sorts. The other thing to mention is, of course, I think we are going to live in a world here, lest the Lord returns and ends the whole thing, where life expectancy might go up with this type of application, only because, Jesus talked about in Matthew 24, Luke 21, about, as it were in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. And if we're talking about the days of Noah, those early biblical humans were living a lot longer than we do now.
Right.
So, and I also think it's fascinating how the life expectancy was going up. It went up from 60 something to 80 something in the last 50 years or 100 years or something. I can't remember the exact metric, but it's been going up. It hit some kind of limit, and especially with COVID and everything, it sort of shook everything up. And now this next run to make life expectancy longer comes in the form of drugs and, maybe singularity. It's just the whole technological thing. So I don't know. Eventually, we're going to run out of room to have natural life life extension procedures. It's all going to be, hey, take this drug, take these nanobots. Hey, the body, it's not responding. You need to upload that brain right now if you want to keep living.
Yeah, by 2030, it's going to be great.
By 2030, it's coming quick, folks.
Okay, well, you know what else is coming quick?
No.
The art from our very talented producers.
Break. This is a break. Don't just consume the content, but become the content. Become the content. All right, we're going to take a real quick break to thank our producers coming in with their God-given talent. We are a podcast that is available for free. Every hour, every minute, every second is free. No paywall, no nothing. And if you get value out of this free content, then consider providing value back. And you can do so with your time, talent, or treasure. We're going to thank our contributors to the show with their God-given talent, providing value back into the culture behind the community here at Canary Crime News Talk. And we're going to start with Speak Pipe, I believe. Yes.
Please leave a message after the tone.
At the tone, please record your message.
Leave a message. Beep.
Message.
Go to canarycrynewstalk.com. Any of the pages on that website, you will see a green tab on the right side or the bottom. Click on it. It'll give you a little pop-up window that allows you to record a message of up to 90 seconds, minute 30. And you can send it to us, and you can either keep it a private message if it is, and just let us know right at the top. or you can send a message to the Canarium. Here's something from Rochelle.
Happy Wednesday, Canary Cry. So I am back to do part 2 of Job. I'm just going to kind of jump in the middle where it seems to make sense. So here we go. While Job's self-inspecting in his God, he starts questioning. And the Lord spoke from the whirlwind, maintainer of time, beginning and end. Where were you, Job, when I laid the foundations? When the morning stars sing of creations, I placed the line upon the land. I placed the waves upon the sand. I part the light distinctly. I part the springs of the sea. I direct the rivers. I command the lightning with torrential rain. The tender herbs I bring. I control Pleiades and Orion. I feed the lamb. I feed the lion. I deck myself with majesty. I array myself most excellently. Stay strong for Jesus.
Thank you very much, Rochelle.
Thank you very much, Rochelle.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Appreciate it. That is the only message we have today. So thank you, Rochelle, for that. And thank you, Joe, for the ongoing updates. Just giving us a little feedback on how we're doing over here.
Indeed.
Yep. We're going to thank some...
real quick, before we move on, I will like to say in the email that went out today, the newsletter, I put a button that you can click on, and it will take you to the SpeakPipe where you can leave a prayer for the pre-show, if anybody's interested in doing that. We had the suggestion, no takers yet, but if anybody would like to open up the show in prayer at the top of the show, I think that'd be cool. Be fun. Yeah. So if you check your email box, you navigate to the newsletter there, you'll see a button I put in that email. If you didn't get the email, you can still go to canarycrynewstalk.com and just leave it there for us, and we'll start playing them in the pre-show.
Yep. All right. Some audio production.
Audio production.
All right, we got something from Jonathan F.
Jonathan F.
Short note, he says, hello, thought we needed the next streak jingle, so here you go. Skull and Bones.
Oh, fun.
That's a
I like it. Nice, short.
Yeah, it is short. Yeah, I think it's a 3-2-2. Can you hear it?
Skull and Bones, and then bleep, bloop, blop to me. But yeah, 3-2-2, we could say that.
Okay, yeah, all right. So there you go. We're going to add that. Where are some of our streakers? Did we pass 300 yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so they're getting there, right?
Sir Casey's at 370 something.
273.
270 something.
Okay, so there we go. All right, so that one's coming. It's coming. All right, thank you very much, Jonathan F. Appreciate that. Okay, so I messed up, Basil. I was supposed to clip out this thing from Ginger B. The file came, Ginger B. Appreciate it. It was like a 3-minute video that I think we're supposed to extract the audio.
Okay.
And I didn't get through getting all that done, so it might have to be next episode. It's a really wonderful message.
Yeah, it's very cute. We might as well do what we need to do.
Yeah. So do you want me to play the whole thing now, or should we clean it up to make sure?
I thought you said you needed till Friday.
Yeah. Well, Friday we're not doing a live show. We are doing a Canary Cry radio episode. I don't know if you remember.
That's a good question. I mean, I haven't been able to take a look at it. 3 minutes is quite long to just play a 3-minute thing.
Yeah.
So if there was something that needed to be clipped out or audio extracted or something, I think we need to do that.
Yeah. So let's. I'm so sorry, Ginger B. and the children. We will properly report your message here on Monday's episode. So It'll be
giving
top
us
of list for producers.
Giving us extra work to do here.
It is extra work, but it's okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ginger B.
Thank you.
We'll definitely make up for that on Monday. So let's go to the art.
One art, please.
And we're going to kick it off with the artwork of Sir Dove. Wheel spinning. Here we go. Sir Dove.
One art piece from Dove.
Got a message that says, peace for today's artwork. I made a flyer for the upcoming Houston area meetup in May. Hope you guys like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for yins.
Yep, love it. And that's exactly what it is. May 13th, Canary Cry, Houston area meetup 2, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Tom Bass Park, Pavilion 6. Contact davyfrost@gmail.com. And we've got a beautiful Houston skyline in the background there, and a googly-eyed canary in an astronaut suit suspended from wires from the sky there. Very good. It's got the Canary Cry News Talk seal on the front. This is very fun. Thank you, Sir Dove. Once again, making sure that the meetups are properly expressed in the meetup flyers.
Yes, thank you. All right. We also have something from Everly, who is the 11-year-old daughter of One Lousy Petunia. So thank you very much. There's a couple pieces here. This first one is a hand-drawn pencil. Looks like some colored pencil.
Yeah,
like
which one are you showing first?
The Gonzo. The Gonzo
yes.
card.
Yeah, no, this is fun. I'm assuming these are inspired by the Legends of the Canarium trading card game that are in the Canary Cry supply drop. We do a custom, kind of like a Pokemon card, but it's based on characters from this show. So this is good. This is very fun. It's like a Pokemon card. This one is Gonzo. It looks like a fire type podcaster. Creature here. It's in the news category, and you've got a couple of attacks here. You've got Fire Podcast, which does 100 damage, and you've got Fire Lunge that does 1 damage. Looks like great. Fire Podcast is a little bit more effective there. It's got your weakness down at the bottom. And your weakness is nothing.
Nothing.
You have no weaknesses. That's a powerful card. Thank you very much, Everly, for that. And then we've got another one.
Yes.
This is the Basil card. Let's see. You've got me in stick figure form with the virtual reality headset with the googly eyes, seemingly going Super Saiyan. My hair flying up into the sky. I've got sort of yellow energy bolts surrounding me. At the top, it says Mega 6X VMAX, which is very impressive. Basil there at the top. I've got Basil Kick, which does 9 billion damage. Look, I don't want to brag, Gons, but that's a little bit higher than Fire Podcast.
Yeah.
Got another attack that's Basic Punch, but it does 99 shazillion damage. It's a very powerful card here.
Don't shake your hand.
Yes, watch out.
Shazillioned.
Basic Punch does damage up in the shazillions. One flaw here. There is weakness named down at the bottom, and my weakness is Gons. Oh no!
I am your weakness.
The only one that could defeat me.
I am your kryptonite.
Yes.
Yes, you better listen to me, or I will do something to you.
You will Fire Podcast me.
I like this. This is great. This is very creative because while you have the more stronger attacks, you can't really take me out because
that's the kind of balancing that goes into the Canary Cry.
It's very accurately.
Legends of the Canarium trading card game at the supply drop. If anybody's interested, thank you very much, Everly. Very talented, very creative, very welcome to see more of these cards. So help.
We lost Basil for a second here. Okay. Did you mute yourself or did you?
I don't know why that keeps happening. There's no reason why it should be muting.
It's Russia.
But it just randomly mutes.
It's China.
Anyways,
we got microfiction.
Did my admiration for Everly make it through?
Partially. I think
it'll be on the podcast version.
Yeah. Listen to the podcast.
Thank you, Everly.
Thank you, Everly. Thank you to all the producers coming. Oh, we got the microfiction, of course. Yeah, duh.
Microfiction. Microfiction.
This first one is from Runk Smash.
Mike wakes up in the lobby again, but this time there's a large window, out of which he watches the Omni Ouroboros being attacked by a kelp kaiju, the latter of which seems to be winning, when he again hears the sweet drawl of the Violet Valkyrie. The interdimensional adventures continue. Thank you very much, Runk Smash.
Thank you, Runk Smash. All right, we got something from Stefan S.
The trendy TikTok channel Hex Hacks offers sage life advice from Nadia Obamowicz. Eerie canned music and tilted camera focused on her dark yet glamorous dolled-up face. Her latest incantation covers the avoidance of traffic citation, fees, and points.
Yeah. And this was accommodated by a New York Post article with the headline, Inside Trump Grand Jury, 4 persons, bonkers Pinterest account. Which
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
She was so excited to indict Trump, and she's also very much into witchcraft.
Mm-hmm. Yep, remember her. All right. Thank you very much to all the producers coming in with your talent. We truly appreciate it. And it really is helping build the culture behind the community here. So thank you. And,
that's right. And if you're a creative person, an artist of any kind, you can submit your work at canarycry.art. That is canarycry.art. Upload it there. And if you have any articles you want to bring to the show, you can go to canarycry.report. Those are the places to get it on the show. Thank you very much, everybody.
So a new discovery, Antarctica.
Penguins.
Inquirer.net. Headline. It's all coming together, Basil. The headline here. Antarctica, a savior to the future of Earth.
And there it is. They're just saying it, Gons. They called us crazy. We've been rambling on about how Antarctica was being set up as the utopia, the rich, white, liberal utopia that will save liberal ideology and the ideologists who practice it. And here it is. They're just saying it. Antarctica is the savior of all of Earth.
Yep. In 2009, in the 2009 movie Avatar, set in the year 2154, the Earth's natural resources have been depleted. That's every sci-fi movie. Earth's natural resources have been depleted. So people explore another star system to mine a valuable mineral. But before going to outer space, mankind can rely on Antarctica, a well-preserved continent twice the size of Australia, and the vast southern ocean, also called the Antarctic Ocean, around it, rich in water, food, and mineral resources. The kilometers thick ice and snow covering the continent hold in store the history of our planet, which can give us cues about the future. I think they meant cues. I thought they meant clues, but I think cues. Yeah, cues about its future, especially climate change. Quote, all activities relating to Antarctica mineral resources, except for scientific research, are banned until 2047. That area. The mind upload, and then what was 2046? We had that article the other day from about 2046. Something was going to happen. It was the year after the upload.
Yeah.
I forget. Was it the end of the world?
It's the meteors hitting.
The meteors, that's right. Okay, so we got Mind Upload 2045, Meteor 2046, and then opening up research in Antarctica 2047.
No, not research. Sorry.
Or mining.
Open up mining and mineral resources. And
perfect timing.
Yeah. After the meteor hits, that's when you can mine in Antarctica.
Well, especially if they're going to the asteroid brings to Earth when it hits, when it destroys California or not California, Los Angeles or New York. Those are the two targets. Whatever that material is, it's going to help build the quantum computer. So we gotta mine that, and then you find the same material buried under ice in Antarctica. I'm just spitballing.
Are you?
Yeah. 2047 under the Protocol of Environmental Protection to the Antarctic Treaty, but fishing is allowed up until a certain level set by the Convention for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Life Living Resources. Dr. Kim Ye-dong, president of the Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research, said in an interview last week with the Korea Herald, SCAR is an interdisciplinary body that coordinates international scientific research efforts in Antarctica, including the Southern Ocean. There's also the bad guy in Lion King. The sustainable level of annual Antarctic krill. Oh, yeah, the krill. We're skipping the krill stuff. Blah, blah, blah. We know about the krill. It's been a while. Currently, some 100,000 tourists visit Antarctica annually, according to Kim. Around a third of them are Americans. That makes sense. Listener, who do you think is number 2? I asked you, Basil, and you got it right. So I'm just giving a moment for the listeners to maybe guess.
Easy peasy.
Number 2. America, number 1. Number 2 is China, along with 10 South Korean tourists who also visited recently. Which is okay. All right, weird. Out of the 100,000, 10 of them were South Korean. The rise of tourism increases the risk of disrupting the continent's fragile ecosystem by bringing in invasive species like non-native crabs clinging on ships, disturbing its wildlife with human activity and pollution. However, managing tourism on Antarctica is a complicated issue. Presently, thousands of research and support personnel, including those who stay through the austral winter season, maintain over 80 research stations run by about 30 countries. Most of them are located along or near the coast, which is warmer and easier for ship access. There are currently only 5 inland stations that belong to the U.S., Russia, France, Italy, which is considered one, Japan, and China. South Korea aims to build the 6th inland station and its 3rd research post in Antarctica after King Sejong and Jangbogo by 2030. There's that year again, 2030. They got some goals. As inland stations are built on ice and snow that has accumulated for up to 1 million years and are some 3 kilometers thick, Korea plans to drill through the ice to analyze trapped air from prehistoric times for paleoclimate research. Yeah, that's how the ancient viruses are released. Don't you know the plots to all those movies? Korea is we already just read that. South Korea plans to look into what is causing the Antarctic glaciers to melt and forecast the rise of sea levels in 2030, and then 2050, and then 2100. The Antarctic Treaty System has been a model of international cooperation since the Cold War era, but a looming spillover of geopolitical issues has been worrying scientists, including Kim, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Quote,
I think the Cold War reference is interesting because we've been hearing recently in the mainstream that the Cold War mentality is holding us back. Yeah. You know, this Cold War mentality is causing aggravation and may have even caused the war in one way or another, and how we need to get out of this Cold War mentality. Well, if Cold War mentality includes keeping Antarctica neutral, then maybe it's time. It's time. Open her up, baby. It's the savior of the future of the planet.
So there was a meeting, the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting, that took place and last year in 2022 when a Russian representative started speaking at this event in May of 2022. Most member countries walked out. Only a few like China, India, and South Africa remained. I wonder why. wonder why China, India, and South Africa are extra interested in what Russia is doing in Antarctica. Another major issue at the Berlin meeting was emperor penguins.
Uh-oh.
So we have our Nephilim update.
Nephilim update. Nephilim update. Nephilim update.
An overwhelming majority of countries felt there was insufficient scientific evidence that the world's largest penguins are increasingly threatened by the effects of global warming and will go extinct if not put under the special protection. But a formal decision was blocked by one party. China.
Ooh.
Beijing
China's
did not
into protecting penguins.
Beijing did not provide any explanation for this vote, but observers say that the country has often acted in a contrarian manner in international issues. So, yeah, the West, it's sort of like this quasi-mini, not so violent, cold, actual cold virtual war going on in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, the West is like, a lot of Western nations are like, hey, we got to go into Antarctica because the penguins, we got to rescue the penguins. They're going to go extinct if we don't intervene. And China's like, no.
Yeah, well, remember the penguin pineal glands?
Yeah.
All the headless penguins washing up on shore in Australia? Yeah, obviously China is harvesting these penguin pineal glands.
But what if that's Xi's favorite meal? He's like, oh, I love.
Well, considering how many penguins were dead, it's a good chance that is exactly right.
Yeah. So the West has adrenochrome. The East has penguin pineal glands.
That's right.
Making perfect sense. While the rest of the world has the United Nations, the region south of 60 degrees south latitude, which covers about a fifth of the southern hemisphere, is governed by the Antarctic Treaty. The treaty was initially signed by 12 countries in 1959 and currently acceded to by a total of 56 nations or parties to the treaty. 7 of the 12 initial signatories, Australia, New Zealand, China, Argentina, the UK, France, and Norway.
Chile, not China.
Oh, did I say China? Sorry. Chile divided up the icy continent the size of China and India combined and claimed their territory. However, the Antarctic Treaty put all territorial claims in abeyance and stipulated that only peaceful and scientific activities are to be conducted on the continent. End of article. So, amidst World War III, Antarctic geopolitics is a savior, Basil. It's a savior of the Earth.
How many things can we be right about over and over and over? It's really bizarre.
Well, I think it's also funny that, you have these nations that are in geopolitical turmoil with one another, all going to Antarctica and having a sort of a different type of conversation. And it reminded me of the Bible verses in Revelation 13, which a lot of things remind me of that, but specifically the 10 kings, not just Revelation 13, but in the Bible, the 10 kings that are supposed to rise as part of the beast out of the sea, and how these 10 kings give power to the beast and, exercises its authority. It's kind of this hive mind situation that's described. And it just makes me wonder if Antarctica is going to be that sort of HQ for that kind of thing. Not because we know Jerusalem has to do with Mystery Babylon and all this kind of stuff, but in terms of a place in a post network state world where we have, the geography matters less and it's more about these network states, Antarctica can become that table where all the nation's 10 kings comes to discuss, geopolitical affairs, especially it being the largest body of, I guess, land, even though it's covered in ice, that does not have its own, I guess you can call it sovereignty. It's more of a shared state right now.
Yeah,
right. So I think it's going to play a big role in end times prophecy, but to call it a savior is just straight up I don't know. Our thesis here.
I think Antarctica, if all of our dots that have been connecting over the past few years continue in that trajectory, something about World War III, it'll either start or end because of Antarctica.
Yeah.
We got to keep an eye out for that. I mean,
agree with that.
Something's going on, and it's going to have to do with the penguins, obviously. The penguins are going to be the mediators. They'll reveal themselves to be some sort of interdimensional, spiritual being, and then the deception shall begin and peace shall be found.
Maybe their pineal glands specifically, the frequency of their pineal glands specifically allows them to communicate with certain entities.
It's the secret to interdimensional travel is penguin pineal glands.
There you go. It's going to power the UFOs and feed our bellies, apparently.
That's right. And feeding our bellies is our producers. Thank you so much, producers, for helping out with this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. This Friday will be a Canary Cry radio episode. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be broadcast. It'll show up on the RSS feed. So that'll be fun, and hope you guys enjoy that. Thank you to our executive producer for today, Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes. Thank you to all the rest of our producers, whether it's with your talent or your finances, and of course with your time. We've got a few more to thank, starting with our Clippies. Clippy on those videos. Thanks. That's right. Thank you to the Clippies. Go subscribe to the Canary Cry Clips channel on Odyssey and YouTube. You can find clips of this show, both longer segments and shorter shorts. And thank you to Emsworth, Faye Liverin, Jones, and Laura for making that possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And of course, thanks to our timestampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
That's right. Our timestampers going through the episode as it's going. Timestamping, it goes into so much of our back-end process. Thank you to Pocojo and Jade Bouncerson for doing the timestamps for episode 601.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you to our social media gal.
The social media consultant.
Thanks so much. Social media, follow us.
That's right. Dame Miss G, the Ovi in the Deep Rivers, making sure the art gets on the social media. Appreciate it there, Dame Miss G. And I already mentioned canarycrymeetups.com, but go to there.
Yes.
Canary Cry Meetups.
You know it. You love it. Put on some meetups. Give us an email. Let us know where you want the meetups to be and when, and we'll put it on canarycrymeetups.com. Go check it out, folks.
Mm-hmm. All right. You finished before the page even loaded on the screen.
That's right. Ratings and reviews, folks. It's very fun. It's very flirty, very flattering for you to go leave us ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. Helps us out quite a bit. Shares the show with people who may never have gotten the chance, the opportunity to check out the show. That's one great way to help us out. Low commitment, low requirement, high reward. Thank you to Australia for listening to the show. Top 100 in Australia. Right. And New Zealand.
Hey.
And South Africa.
Hey.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe because we talk about them so much in context to Antarctica that they
we had quite a rally in the Southern Hemisphere countries there. South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, gateway countries to Antarctica. Maybe
the
that's
white
why
savior.
So
to the white savior, Basil, you can say it.
Yeah. And what's up to Finland and Poland?
Hey.
Getting in there. It's top 50 in Finland. Hey, Finland. All right. There you go. Thank you very much. Leave ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. And other than that, thank you to Jam for the articles. Mm-hmm. And thank you to everybody who sent in articles over at canarycry.report.
Yeah, that's One Lousy Petunia and Brother G sending stuff in. So thank you.
Wonderful.
Both of those, yeah.
And share the show, folks. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with all the penguins, not just the penguins' adrenal glands, but also the pineal glands. All the glands of the penguins need to know that this show is where it's at. And, you hate to see it when a penguin has totally bought into the mind control of corporate media and they trust their penguin politicians. They believe the narratives that their penguin news anchors blogs or reading on the news. And really, I would love to see a revolution in Antarctica where the penguins start waking up to realizing that the mainstream penguin corporate news organizations do not have their best interests in mind. Because once the penguin pineal glands get a hold of that fact and start listening to Canary Cry News Talk on the regular, then they can start bringing that back to their interdimensional penguin overlords. And you know what? That's one thing that podcasts have yet to be able to do, is broadcast interdimensionally. So we all know that once a penguin pineal gland has been saturated in the beautiful dulcet tones of their favorite podcast, that will inevitably end up transmitting back to the penguin dimension, which will have rippling effects throughout the multiverse. So go find a penguin, folks, and make sure they're listening to the show. Other than that, we like to call it rattling cages, and all you got to do is walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
Yep, just ask Noah. Guns, any last words?
We'll see you Friday with a Canary Cry Radio episode. But also happy St. Patrick's Day for everybody on Friday.
Indeed.
Wear your green. I love it because we do a whole big thing at our house. My wife's half Irish.
Do you have the little leprechauns that run around, leave footprints everywhere?
Maybe we will this year. That's a good idea.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that something your folks did for you? Or I mean, leprechauns
in
did
school.
In school. Okay.
In school, the teachers would do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in on Friday for a Canary Cry Radio episode. But until then, think outside the cage.
I love the Great Reset.
This is the United States of America, for God's sake. Give me a break. Give me a break.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people zoo.
I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
Cosmos, children in the space lane.
I'm an adult in a spaceship.
Supersonic space lane screamed to life and the vehicle swooped upward. On board, the passengers experienced a 3 G's of force and the burst of extreme acceleration and watched the blue sky fade into space.
In the back have been cleared to unstrap.
Oh, yeah.
In the back have been cleared to unstrap.
Yes. Do it, Richard. Do it, Jeff. Do it for humanity.
To all you kids down there, I was once a child with a dream. Now I'm an adult in a spaceship.
He can accomplish it. You can too. Big windows, cool. Rocket ship, cool. Space plane, cool.
Nukes,
cool.
Blowing stuff up,
cool. Space plane, astronaut, rocket ship.
Previous anchor.
We have Bezos. He's a human. Just look at him. Go to the bathroom in bags. He can go to the bathroom in the cosmos. It changed everything.
We're all gonna die.
Wives in space, children in the cosmos, with your best friend brother. Wives in the cosmos, children in the space lane.
We are headed to space.
We will hunt you down and make you pay.
I love the Great Reset.
He's a Satanist.
Don't even get me started on bidets, man.
Toilets!
Bidets, man. Bidets, man. I'm telling you, you were living the life, man. Bidets, man.
Toilets! Toilets!
This is the United States of America, for God's sake.
When the news of the day gets to feeling like a maze, it's okay, don't be afraid if you don't know what to say. Canary, cry away. When your brain's in a haze on a headline days, come on ahead my way, I can help you out the cage. Canary, cry away.
Armageddon's on the way.
Canary, cry away. Oh, canary, cry away.
This is the way.
Oh, the world's changing every day, each and every way you turn. There's another thing to learn. Reading in between the lines, thanking Jesus for our lives, and nice to see His glory shining like the sun. Run the race until it's done. Come on, everyone. Canary, cry away. Oh, canary, cry away.
This is the way.
When your brain's in a haze and the headline days, come on ahead my way, I can help you out the cage. Canary, cry away.
In the future, humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
I'll keep you safe and warm in my people's zoo. I'll keep you safe and warm now in my people's zoo. You, yeah, you in my people's zoo. I'll keep the cameras on.
Not know what you are talking about. Science is true. Data. Claim it.
I'll make you fat and sassy in my people's zoo. I'll make you fat and sassy in my people's zoo.
Give me a break.
You, yeah, you. You, yeah, you. You, yeah, you. In my people's zoo.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths.
Goodbye, everybody. And that's the end. And everyone says, oh, that was fun.
Bye. I'm out of here. Bye.
CanaryCryRadio.com/support